everybody. It's 7 o'clock on Tuesday, July 13th. We're going to call the Carson City School Board of Trustees meeting to order. With that, item 1 is adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any board discussion? Seeing none. Any public comment on the agenda? Please come up to the microphone.
I'd like to recommend to the board that item 6 be for discussion only, since the third version of the reopening plan was not, did not have sufficient review time, either for the trustees or for the public. And that if there is an urgency of time to submit it to the Department of Education, then a special meeting be called for the approval step. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment on this agenda item? Any comments remote?
Robert Harris, I second that motion.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, back to the board. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Item 2, flag salute, and Trustee Ramirez.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, Superintendent's Report. This is for information only. Superintendent Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, community members. Have a few items. We were privileged to attend an event today that was held by a new company in town by the name of Biomat. And it is a company that is a plasma donation center. And of course, plasma is used for a number of medical purposes and procedures. The company made a $1,000 donation to the Carson City Schools Foundation. And at that event, I was privileged to go with President Cassiopo, who is, of course, our president of the school board. We also had in attendance Mr. Steve Reynolds, who's our foundation president, and also Valerie Dockery, who is our grants and special projects director. So that was a nice event. We wish them well as a new company. They seem to be very interested in being able to forge relationships and partnerships with the school district, and so look forward to having them as a community partner. I also wanted to update the board on actions recently taken by the NIAA, and I know that Trustee Wilkie has interest in this area, but I know she no longer sits on that board, but she may have some additional information should she choose to share it. At a recent meeting of the NIAA, the discussion called for the implementation of a temporary adjustment in athletic eligibility for the 21-22 school year. And what this means is that any student athlete that is planning to participate in league-sanctioned sports during the fall and spring semesters of this school year, if they become ineligible due to unsatisfactory grades because of grades at the end of the semester, this new rule will allow those students to be temporarily made eligible for 3 weeks. And then during the regular process of the temporary or of the 3-week grade check, if the student becomes eligible during that 3-week period of time, then the student athlete may continue to participate. If the student athlete fails to become eligible by the 3rd week grade check, then that student athlete is ineligible to participate until grades are at an acceptable level. So part of this thinking was to provide some extra consideration for students that may have experienced learning loss or challenges in their academic record due to the pandemic. With that, Mr. President, I'll hand the mic back to you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 4, board reports. Let's start off with Nevada Association of School Boards update.
Make
Laurel?
su- Okay, so the Nevada Association of School Boards had a Board of Directors meeting in Elko the last weekend in June, and we were able to also tour Ranch 71, isn't that, what was it, 71? Outside of Elko, and learn about the CTE information on ranching and the artificial insemination efforts that are going on in the ranching out there. So most of the cattle, though, were up in the mountains because it was too hot in Elko for them to even stay down in the pasture. So we didn't get to see all of the cattle that they had there, but we learned quite a bit about it. And also wanted to let you know that there are 2 positions on state councils that NASB has been asked to present. Any board member can apply for it. It is the Teachers and Leaders Council and the Early Childhood Council that we're looking for positions. And we've been informed by that Governor Sisolak would like 3 applicants for each position. So far we do not have 3 applicants for each. So if any of you are interested in serving on one of those state councils, please let me know and we'll get that in. And then just another reminder, we have training coming up September 10th and 11th in Las Vegas, and also October 8th and 9th in Reno. It will be the same training, so you can choose which date works best for your calendar. And we're going to keep that. Next year, we're going to try to have more trainings with everyone in the state able to attend so that we can have that unity as an association. Also, mark your calendars for the annual conference, November 11th through 13th at Harvey's. So that concludes my report.
Great, thank you very much. Let's go to board reports. We'll start with Trustee Walker. Trustee Wilkie?
Just to follow up on the NIAA stuff, because it wasn't the last vote I got to take. But they did send out their directive, and it has a really nice flow chart that really shows you exactly what we're talking about, because it's a little convoluted sometimes when you read it. So that is on their website if you want to see it. And that's my report.
Trustee Kareem?
I have just some news coming up in less than a month already. The Carson High School Blue Thunder Marching Band starts their band camp on Monday, August 2nd at 8 a.m. So any high school band members interested, or anybody interested, just show up August 2nd, 8 a.m. at the band room. And that'll go for 2 weeks before school starts, ending on Friday, August 13th with a 6 p.m. Parent preview of the show. And that's all I have tonight.
Great, thank you. Trustee Ramirez?
I do not have a report this evening.
Trustee Crossman?
I don't have a report from my schools, but just something that affects schools in Carson City that I read about and I wanted to share in case you guys hadn't heard and I thought you might be interested. Kutavin Stevens is going to be a senior at Urington High School. He is the only member of the team of Urington's cross-country team. He is an excellent runner. I had a chance to meet him when I was working the track meets in Carson, and he ran against my son, a very nice young man. And he is doing a remembrance run in August where he will be running from the Stewart Indian School in Carson City to Urington. It's 50 miles in remembrance of his grandfather, who at 8 years old was brought to the Stewart Indian School and ran away home to Urington 3 different times. And having had 8-year-old boys, 5 of them that have been 8, the thought of those kids running, that boy running back to his family, is it. So he is inviting anyone in the running community to run and join him on this remembrance run to honor his ancestry in that. And he said, you don't have to run the whole way. You can run and then get in a support vehicle if you want. So I just thought that was a really inspirational thing. He's a fabulous athlete who has been training all year by himself, and he's won every race he's been in Urington, and not just because Urington's small, but amongst all of them. And he's really good. He's better than a lot of the top division, the 5A school runners when he ran in the track meets too. So I just wanted to share that.
No, that's great, thank you. And I can tell you, I've run 50-mile races before. You need support. So give me some information on that, and I can send it out to the local running groups, and if anybody's interested in aid stations or something like that, I think we might get some volunteers that way.
That'd be great.
Okay. Trustee Varner.
I have no report tonight.
Okay, thank you. And as far as me, I don't have a report either. Summertime. Item 6, association reports. Do we have any association reports tonight? Either in person or remote?
No, Mr. Cassiopo.
All right, seeing none. Item 6, and I apologize, I was going to say something when you guys came up for that. This is for possible action. It doesn't mean we have to take action, but I think it needs to be presented, to the board, and then we can, amongst the board, we can determine whether or not it's, we want to call for action or postpone it or whatnot, but we don't have to take action. So item 6, discussion and possible action to approve the Carson City School District's plan for in-person instruction, continuity of services, and path forward for distance education for the 2021-2022 school year. And again, for possible action. Superintendent Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, community members. Thank you for this opportunity to make this presentation. I'd like to preface my remarks with some information. And this slide essentially explains what we've tried to do. Obviously, we are tasked with the responsibility of looking after the safety, the well-being, for all the benefit of our student staff and certainly for their families. We've had a year and 3 months of tough learning, of different accessibility to information that is typically presented in schools. We've had a variety of instructional delivery systems and looking to get to that place where that delivery system is as good as it can be. Obviously, we have a desire to foster positive relationships and interactions, not only at school, but also in the community. The work that we're doing has to be fiscally feasible. And of course, there is always going to be, with any public school change, impact on the community. So all these things were really things that we are taking into consideration as we look forward to the next year at school. I want the trustees and also the community to know that I understand and recognize there are concerns over some of the changes that have occurred. This is going on across the state. Many of my and your colleagues also have school board meetings this evening. And at those meetings, because tomorrow is the deadline that we have been given by the State Department of Education to submit these safe school reopening plans, there's a lot of scrambling. We were, hoping that there would be some uniformity at the state level, not only the Department of Education, but also the governor's office, to give us some guidance. We have had a number of meetings where we have had feedback from the community. This is going on in other communities as well, where there is a lot of interest and a lot of concern. And I, for one, would like our friends that are here tonight to know that we are very interested in what they say and that we want them to feel included. We want them to feel like they've had an opportunity for input. We appreciate the time and energy that they've taken to come and be part of these meetings. And with that, I'd like to also say that we have not received that additional guidance that we were hoping for from governmental agencies. So as a result, we're left with a deadline that is tomorrow. And so based on my presentation, based on board discussion, based on the feedback that we receive from community members, it all plays into what we ultimately do. But I think it does need to be said that we've tried hybrid models, we've tried remote learning. The best system for education is to have our students back in school in front of a qualified teacher. And that's probably the main goal that I have as we consider all of these conditions that we're being asked to address. I have made no attempt to hide the fact that all of the conditions associated with this reopening plan can be subject to change, as we have seen over the last year and a half, as schools have been closed completely or as they've been reopened partially. So with that little beginning, I'd just like to work through the reopening plan. So while there are some conditions and some situations that are changed in the plan that was presented at the last meeting, I'm happy to answer questions and discuss with the board and the community anything that they feel is a substantive change that is an example of a significant change or moving away of anything that was in the last plan. So with that, the reopening of our schools and grounds next year for the 2021-2022 school year will be based on the current calendar that's in effect. And so the board's already approved that calendar in past school board meetings. And I've included a copy of that calendar on the Path Forward Distance Education Reopening Plan. And I think we had copies of those available back on the back table. We are suggesting and recommending strongly that school be in session 5 days per week for in-person on-campus learning. Now, part of the reason for doing this work and submitting this information to the Department of Education and to the federal government is that because of the pandemic, some families have elected to remain at home and not attend school on campus and in person. And so we are required to explain to the Department of Ed how we are going to accomplish the remote learning. And that will be done in our school district by an application process to the Pioneer Academy. On that campus, we will have teachers who will be supporting a K-12 remote learning process. But different from last year, where all families had the opportunity to select that remote learning process, we are working in conjunction with the principals and the families, so that application doesn't necessarily mean that all students are a good candidate for an online remote program. So we're taking into account students that might have a medical issue. We're taking into account students that have been successful in remote learning programs, and in fact who have done very well and have been able to advance or proceed in their standard program because of the online program. So certainly there are students and families that are very well suited for remote learning, and we want to make that available as necessary. We also know that students during the course of any school year will fall ill to childhood illnesses, sometimes very significant illnesses, or injury. And typically those conditions are rather short-lived. And because all of our students are given Chromebooks and we work with families that don't have good access to the internet, we can provide the ongoing education for students to receive the same curriculum and lessons that are actually going on in their classroom, even if they have to stay home for a short period of time. And that's due to the fact that we have really good working Chromebooks, and also we can assist families who need that extra connectivity to the internet. And then also just want to state that we recognize that the National Center for Disease Control is the nation's clearinghouse, essentially, of data and information associated with pandemics and with public health in general. And so we pay attention to that information. It's something that applies to a wide variety of individuals, but certainly is recognized for the information that it maintains. The use of face masks. The wearing of face masks is not required for the 2022 school year. As stated earlier, this particular concept and topic is in high debate across the state. We have a number of school districts that are planning to require the wearing of face masks. We have a number of school districts in the state that are, as in our case, not requiring the wearing of face masks. However, Carson City School District highly encourages the use of face masks for unvaccinated persons over the age of 2 years of age. Now, this is... Please look at the first bullet. The wearing of face masks is not required for the 2022 school year. If you think about what is in front of us here, we have the National Health Organization of the CDC making a recommendation, and the second small bullet under that first one is essentially taken word for word from the CDC. Now, because the school district encourages it, it doesn't mean that it's required. If you walk into any store in our community, you'll see that the majority of the people who are going into retail establishments are not wearing face masks. To have a requirement of face masks in the school and then not enforce it means nothing. And as a consequence, we are stating that it's going to be then in the next bullet point down, individuals may voluntarily wear a face mask in school, on school grounds, or in school vehicles. If people do not believe in wearing face masks, we're not requiring them to have a vaccination in order to be employed by the school district or to be enrolled in the schools or to attend schools. So vaccinations are out there. They're available at no cost in a variety of locations. They're not being offered by the school district. And we are not requiring that vaccinations be a part of any part of the school. So that's a personal, that's a family decision. We respect that. But I also just want to let you know that it is a recommendation of the CDC that people consider obtaining a vaccination. The other bullet that has not been stated up here is if a localized outbreak of COVID-19 or a variant results as a result of a multi-layered aspect of trying to get a hold of that outbreak and to prevent school closures, we may employ a temporary use of face masks to try to get out in front of that. Okay, health and well-being. These are items that we employed to a large degree of success last year. A wellness check should be conducted prior to coming to school, and this is for staff, volunteers, students, anybody who is going to come onto campus. We're encouraging staff, students, volunteers, please stay home if you don't feel well. I didn't really want to use the word social distancing, but we all know what that is. So the topic, the concept is position yourself in a place where you're not going to be too close to someone. And we try to do this at school. The principals have developed really slick processes where they're able to use little stickers that they put on the floor, stickers that they put in the cafeteria that help students know where to sit. And all of these are just aimed at providing a space envelope, as it were, around individuals and trying to prevent people from coming into contact with contagions, simply trying to stay healthy. We will have a number of personal protective equipment available for staff. We will also have a high number of face masks for anybody who voluntarily desires to wear them while they're at school. We have registered nurses that are available in our schools. And again, while vaccinations for COVID-19 or its variants are encouraged, they are not mandatory. And we will do our best to try to keep students, staff, and families current with guidelines that come out of our local and regional health offices as well as at the national level. As you know, student attendance in the state of Nevada is mandatory for children ages 7 through 18. We are proposing that for the next school year, all special population programs will be in place. So programs that serve students with individual education plans, students who are English language learners, students who are gifted and talented. The next bullet says extra and co-curricular activities. You'll know that from last year, there were a number of restrictions placed on not only athletics, but also on our band and our choir. And so all of these activities are proposed to be available for the opening of school next year. And especially with regard to athletics, the NIAA that we've already heard about tonight will continue to guide and direct those activities. One of the requirements for the State Department of Education is that we show, and this is not a hard thing to do, we've always been able to maintain and record student attendance and academic progress, and so this is just a recommitment to that end. Our students will receive standards-based grade-level curriculum, and they'll be provided all of the instructional information and material through face-to-face in-class models, but these items will also be available to our remote students. Part of our requirement here is to also assure families and students that teachers are accessible to students and families via the internet or telephone, but there is a limitation, and that is that time that the teachers are available is during regularly scheduled instructional time. Can't expect teachers to always be available on weekends or holidays or after the regular work hours. There was a question here a week or so ago, or at our last board meeting, about social and emotional supports. We do have a number of individuals who work in our schools. Some have licenses in family relations and I'm spacing the exact terminology, but LSW licensed social workers who are capable of providing guidance and direction for students and families. And then the other item that is important to note is we will continue, as in years past, with professional development for staff at all levels, not just teachers, but also those who work in support areas of the school district. School operations, the services that you see on this screen are those that we have always had available in the school district, and they will continue. All of those services will be employed. You also see the schedules for the different levels of schools in the school district. And so for any regular school day, those are the times and the dates, not the dates rather, but the times that you would expect for our schools to take back up a regular 5-day per week schedule. So going through some of the individual services, in case there are questions, transportation services are available to qualifying students. As you know, we do have a system of walk zones, so the students have to be outside of that walk zone in order to qualify for school district transportation. During our electronic registration process, there's a place in that program that allows parents, as they're updating their children's information, to indicate whether or not their student plans to use district transportation. This is really helpful for our folks because we are being asked to operate buses at approximately 66% occupancy. But I also want the community especially to know that we have never left a student at a bus stop because of the social distance component. We have either had those students get on the bus, or if the students are at a school, we have sent an additional bus to the school so that those students have a way home. So we will not leave any students at a bus stop. However, if that student or family consistently is outside of or inside of the school zone, they may be contacted either by the schools or the transportation department, just so that we can make sure that we're providing that service as it has been administered. And then, of course, after the day of transporting students, our buses are sanitized by our transportation staff. From the perspective of nutrition services, students who are attending school in person will be provided breakfast and lunch free of charge for the 2021-2022 school year. This is a statement that and a benefit that has been provided by the Department of Agriculture, and so that will be engaged here in our district as well. We do, however, encourage families to complete the free and reduced lunch meal application form. That gives us opportunities to maintain data that we then will use for grant programs that are providing dollars through the Department of Education and also through the federal government. When school was closed in 2 Marches ago, not this last March, but the year before, school meals were made available to all individuals, and that will not be the case for next year. There will not be meals available for weekends. So just wanted the folks who use our nutrition services to be aware of that. There were some questions at a recent board meeting about our use of school lunches, and so I asked for some general statements from our staff with regard to the nutrition benefits of our meals. And there are federal guidelines that are strictly adhered to, and those have to do with number of calories, the amount of sodium, fat. It's also important to note that meals are served with fruit and or vegetable servings. And when whole grain, or when any of the foods that are served come from grains, that whole grains are used, and in addition, the enriched flour that has additional vitamins, minerals, and fibers are also used. From our operations department, cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting, this lists really the schedule that has been identified by our Director of Operations for being able to keep our schools clean and to try and manage any infectious disease that might find its way into the school. So even though this is a time of COVID-19 and its variants, this process is also used to battle the common cold, any kinds of flus, and certainly any other infectious disease that might find its way into the schools. You'll see there that we do air exchanges and filtration. Unfortunately, our area is prone to the impact of wildfires. You'll remember this from our last school year. And so even though we had this process in place, it did not make sense to exchange air that was smoke-filled and replace it with from the outside of the schools, and then pump that into our schools in an air exchange process. And so we do have high-quality filters. Those filters are changed regularly, and if we do have clear skies outside and our air quality is good, then those air exchanges happen 3 times a day. and is aimed at reducing, again, any airborne contaminants that might be impacting the health and well-being of our students and also our staff. There were also some questions about cleaning products. We put together a whole list of items that are used in the schools, and those were also made available for individuals to take a look at. So if you have any particular questions on those, we will make every attempt we can to provide that information to you. Information technology, as indicated earlier, we do provide a Chromebook to every student. Families that may be needing reliable internet connectivity should contact their school administration. And any Chromebooks that happen to break down as a result of just typical use, wear and tear, individual schools where the students attend will be able to manage those repairs or provide a new Chromebook if needed. We have a variety of ways that we attempt to provide information to our community. We have an electronic webpage. We have a public information officer that helps us with press releases. We use our automated telephone calling system to a great extent, as do our schools. We also use texts, emails, and social media. And then, of course, our teachers, our principals, even in some cases, some of our parapros are active in using classroom information and outreach to contact families and to discuss any school-related activity or even student-related issue that might be necessary. We also have at the schools signage in both English and in Spanish to try to provide as much information as we can about good, typical personal hygiene, coughing into your elbow or sneezing into your elbow, washing your hands before meals, and getting lots of sleep and eating well, all of those things that are part of staying well. So that information, in addition to some printed materials that the schools will have in the front office, is important. For our staff members, we know that some staff have contacted us, and we encourage others to, if they still have issues with being able to work outside of their home. Obviously, we're a school. We require people to be able to come to school and to accomplish their everyday assignments. As a result, if they feel like they, being our employees, if they have any kind of health concern or issue that they worry about, we would ask that they contact their healthcare provider and then contact our Human Resources Department if special arrangements need to be considered. So as in other slides that we've already seen, we would ask our staff to monitor their own daily health symptoms, maximize physical distance when it's practicable. We realize we're in a people business, and you can't always do that. There are times when teachers and staff members get closer than the former social distances, and so we understand that. We also would encourage any of our staff members who are needed on a daily basis just to simply consider the impact that personal travel might have on their assignment, and just to consider that as they make plans for activities during the year. And again, when they get up, if they don't feel well, then they're certainly encouraged to stay home. So there's been a request to lengthen this process. I do know that we've been given a deadline of tomorrow to submit this. I also know that it is feasible that conditions during any school year will change. And we also have this, if you jump right to the bottom bullet, it says seek public input again after 6 months of school operations. So I believe that our leaders have given us direction that says these conditions can change. And so while there has been a hard deadline placed on us, I'm not sure what's going to happen if that deadline is missed. But obviously, they're looking down the road a ways to say if additional input is selected and changes are made within 6 months, there must be some flexibility within the process. We are seeking approval for this, certainly looking to receive guidance and direction from the board with regard to anything that seems unreasonable or not in a common sense manner. And I know that because this is posted as an action item, there would also be opportunity for public feedback tonight. So, Mr. President, unless you have specific questions for me, in a nutshell, that is our plan. It is in text form. I think that has been provided to our folks. I have tried to indicate in this document anything that has been shaded is new language. Anything that has a strike through it is language that we would propose that it be deleted from this document.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Stokes. So I'm sure we'll have some questions or comments on this topic, but let's start with the board. Any questions or comments from the board? Rich?
I'd just like to say that, once again, we appreciate you guys' input, and we're listening to you guys, and we want to hear more from you. But I think that some of the changes that we heard being requested before were made in this latest plan. Like the no masks on the school buses, that was taken out and changed. And that was one of the things that I think was brought up before. And I think that we've tried to, as this document was prepared, take the input that you guys gave us into consideration. And, but like I said, I know you probably have more concerns that we'd like to listen to.
Anybody else on the board? Seeing none, I'll just reiterate what Rich said. You know, we do take everybody's comments seriously. I know there's some differing views on this, and our job is to balance all the views. We get input in person, we get input through email, we get input in the supermarket. We run into people all over the place, and you know, these are serious topics and serious concerns, and we do try to take them seriously and understand them to the best of our individual abilities. But just to, again, be clear, we're not requiring masks. Anything can change for better or worse, but we're not requiring masks. If a kid shows up at the bus stop and that child or their family doesn't want them to wear a mask, they're still going to get on the bus. We're not going to make them wear a mask. And their school day will be mask-free, if I understand that correctly. It's personal option. If they want to wear a mask, they can, but we're not making them wear a mask either. With that, last chance, any comments from the board? Okay, any comments related to this agenda item? Please, just we'll come up one at a time, state your name at the microphone. Just make sure the green light's on, it looks like it is.
My name's Karen Stevens, and I'm very disturbed about this highly encouraged. Are these children going to be harassed into thinking they have to wear a mask? They're going to have these masks shoved in their hands and
No.
told them they're going to have to wear them because it says highly encourages, like they're going to be bullied or something. That's the feeling I get from this, and any intelligent person knows that wearing a mask is like trying to keep a mosquito out of your yard with a chain link fence. It doesn't work. They're magnets for bacteria and causes all sorts of issues. So I'm very upset about this wording. I find it very untrustworthy. So that's my comment on that.
Thank you. No student is going to be bullied. If you think a student is being bullied, bring it to our attention, and we'll deal with it on an individual basis. Laurel, sure.
Just a comment I was thinking of with that language in there. Last summer during the special session, certain organizations, hotel casinos, were given immunity from transmission of COVID. School districts were not given any immunity from that. This is something, while it's an encouragement, it's not required, but it is encouragement. That does give us not immunity, but it does give us some measure to avoid potential liability. Should an outbreak occur within the school, we do have, our plan is the encouragement of it. Because that is still a possibility, that school districts were not provided protection to resume operations. And that's why some of the districts in the state didn't resume any type of schooling. So to me, this gives us liability protection to include this phrase because it is consistent with the CDC recommendation. And I think that our compliance with those recommendations is the best way to avoid potential liability.
Next, please.
Betsy Strasburg and Richard Nagel. The first thing I like to say that I took the trouble of comparing the first version to the second version, and I was a little disappointed that now we have a third version without adequate time for review, either for the Board of Trustees or for the public. And if the board had received this document previous to the public, then there is another issue that I'm sure Mr. Ryan will address. My recommendation were under the reopening school building and ground section, page 2 and 3 of the July 13th version. I want to emphasize that the governor has returned authority to local school officials to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. And the city has delegated the same authority to the school district and therefore to this board. The Board of Trustees are the final authority of this plan. I was going to make specific comments about the section 5 of the previous version, and also to say that the CDC is an advisory group with no legal authority. The CDC guidance is the school, has also said that the school district can adjust policies based on local conditions. And please remind yourself that the local conditions in Carson City is that we have 51% vaccination rate in Carson City. And that percentage does not include the recovered COVID patients who have natural antibodies, so the protected citizenry residents percentage is a lot higher, probably close to herd immunity. On the new version of the section 5, the only relevant facts were related to that vaccinations are not necessary, masks are not necessary, and nobody is going to ask anybody for their certification of vaccination. Don't ask, don't tell. The rest of the highlighted yellow items are pure direct copy of the CDC, who we know has changes according to the whims of the political climate. So I second what Karen said earlier. These wording and verbatim copy from the CDC guidelines is very troubling. Many people who don't frequent these school board meetings or not used to the protocols that you all follow will take the word of encouraged and mistake it as a suggestion, particularly when it comes from authoritative figures like teachers and other staff in the school. I recommend that these yellow highlighted items, which is a direct copy of the CDC version, be taken out and only the relevant factors remain, which is related to the non-use of masks, no vaccination, and no records. What I'm concerned about is that parents will read this item 5A, where it says masks are encouraged for unvaccinated people over the age of 2 years, that they will pull their children where they can from schools, which I think will be detrimental to public education in Carson City. I said that at the last board meeting, that we have to make sure that we have this capacity and this capacity at full funding, and we cannot afford to have parents pull their student from their children, irrespective of what their rationale is, from schools. Item number 6 also talks about the National Center of Disease Control, and again, as I said, they're an advisory board, and item 6 is not necessary. I would have gone a little further on item 7 and say that good hygiene and continued sanitation practices should be not encouraged but mandated, because we know that you all want to have the staff and student safety as of paramount importance in the school district, and this is a very effective preventative measure. Lastly, the item 4, which was on technology, I saw also in the PowerPoint that the district will provide all enrolled students with Chromebooks and internet connection. I wasn't clear on that because I was wondering whether it was for students who are experiencing short-term absences or whether it was for all students. I think that the district should clarify what that meant. The website version stated that the district technology will support this service under the section of discussing short-term absences. When it refers to a service, I interpret a service typically to indicate a duration, a period. My last point is I recommend to the board, since this may be approved today, given the timelines that Superintendent Stokes mentioned, that the amendments are made before it is approved, if it is approved today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Betsy. Any additional public comment on this item? Yes, sir. Just speak your name into the microphone.
Good evening, board members.
I think you saw.
Oh, yeah. For the record, my name is Maury Kurland, and I'm a Carson High School honor student. So the first thing I would like to address is that I think on behalf of myself and the community at large, we support that masks won't be required as they restrict breathing, limit participation in school activities, and make teaching and attending classes vastly more difficult and provide no proven health benefit. So I think we support this. But as my preceding community members have said, I will reiterate it, the specific wording, quote, highly encouraged, seems kind of concerning. So I'd like to ask the superintendent what that would entail.
Let me take a crack at it, Richard, and then please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I was just gonna, real quick, we're encouraging it because those are the directives we're hearing from the CDC and health organizations, but we're not enforcing it. We're not gonna ridicule anybody for not wearing it. We're not gonna tolerate ridicule or bullying. In fact, that's in our policies not to. So it's just merely making a statement that this recommendation exists by some entities. And again, we're not going to require it.
Okay, thank you. And then, as my final comment on this agenda item, I'd just like to give my support on behalf of myself, at least, for full school attendance being offered and encouraged, because last year was incredibly difficult and damaging because we weren't allowed to do many of the things that school regularly entails. We weren't usually allowed within reasonable distances to other people. We weren't even allowed to meet half of the people we should have known. So forging social connections was highly limited. And extracurricular activities were very much, they weren't offered as much as they should have been. And so again, social connections were very much limited. So I'd just like to say that I'm highly encouraged that this year will be normal, and I think many parents, students, and staff members here in the district are as well. Thank you.
Robert Harris. I just have a question. Are the public school buses under the Department of Transportation's authority?
Richard, I defer that to you.
To clarify, Carson City School District or
Yes.
the State Department?
The Carson City school bus system, is it regulated by the Department of Transportation federally?
We receive dollars from the State Department, who receives it from the federal government.
Okay.
So, Mr. Fueling, anything to add to that?
We have to bring you up here.
Okay, go ahead.
Jose Delphin, for the record, I can tell you that Department of Transportation is the licensing body for the CDLs that are being issued
Right.
for our bus drivers, and the random testing with regard to drugs and alcohol. And that's about it as far as their involvement.
Okay, so they're not the ones recommending the masks?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I was just curious because I didn't want any, later on, because I know in airplanes and everything else, there's
Right.
some ambiguity as far as what the policies are, but the DOT was clear. That's why I was just curious.
Right, and we ascribe to not just federal, but, our drivers take the CDL test out of
Right.
DMV here in Carson City. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional public comment on this item? Yes, sir. Just state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Lee Elliott, and I'm a resident of Carson City. And Mr. Stokes, I'm going to counter you on a couple of things, okay? One of them is that you know my wife. She was a counselor for 11 years, and she has taught me, and she taught the social, whatever you want to call them, social workers. And she taught at WNC. And she has told me over and over again, there is a complete different type of genre that you go through to become a school counselor as compared to a social worker. Okay, there's a total different way of looking at things. I know she was very proud of what she did at Borderwick Bray for 11 years. And she said she would come out of retirement as a part-time counselor, not as a social worker, to help kids that are in need, if she didn't have to wear the stupid mask, and it sounds like you guys are going to throw that away. But I want you to be aware that these kids are so confused right now. They don't know what's right. They don't know what race they are. They don't know what sex they are. They don't know any of that stuff. And they're as confused as the day that, their mom and dad said, this is your name. So you have to really look hard at retrieving funds from some place that will allow trained counselors to come back into the schools. Social workers are good, don't get me wrong, because there's ugly stuff that happens at schools with kids, okay? They get, they used to come to my wife and, oh, we need that. My mom and dad have done this to me. or my brother and sisters have picked on me, and so we're not here for you guys. We're here for the kids that are our future in this country. And if we don't treat them well now, then guess what? We're going to lose 2 or 3 generations to come. And I strongly believe that. So I know you're going to have a rebuttal, and I know that, which is good. That's what makes America great. But let me tell you something, as a politician, because I'm running for state senate, just to let you guys know, this is important, guys. We need to save our kids. We need to save our kids from this critical race theory. We need to save our kids from the mask. We need to save our kids from all this. So please, please look in your heart and souls, and let's move forward for our kids, not for you and me. Okay? That's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Any other public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none. Oh, please.
I'm Maxine Bradshaw. My concern is that the one thing I do want to say is that there's a lot of time that has been spent since a year ago March, a year ago February, when all of this first hit the United States, about CDC and some of these organizations and groups. But the wonderful thing is that we have hundreds of thousands of doctors, hundreds of thousands globally, and that many just in the United States, who have come forward and said they have documented this. These are medical health professionals. The list is growing. One of the ones you've probably heard of is American Federation of, or not Federation, it's America Frontline Doctors, AFLDS.org. Dr. Simone Gold is behind this. And what she has said over and over again is that masks do nothing. In fact, they're detrimental to these children, period. And she has gone out and declared exactly what this COVID is. The problem that we have faced in this state, and we've sent many letters, we the people of Nevada, have sent thousands of letters out to our commissioners, our board of supervisors, and we've let the public know that these are the facts, the medical facts. This is really what is happening here. This has become a political machine, we know it, but what we need to do is take it from the health professionals that are telling you the truth by hundreds of thousands. They have documented it. The Great Barrington Declaration is one. You need to look that up because that is signed by physicians all over. The last count, and this was last year, was over 57,000 doctors had signed that. You need to look at the facts. Go to your medical health professionals and look and ask them. Right down in Douglas, Minden and Garnerville, ask a few of those physicians what they're recommending to their patients. They are treating their patients with hydroxychloroquine and some of these things. Let's look at the facts. Let's stop looking at the agencies that are playing pseudo doctors with this and do not have the facts. CDC does not have the facts. And I agree with everyone here that spoke up about highly recommending something. I think you know in your hearts exactly the message you're sending the people when you say that. They're going to take that only one way, and that's it. So look for the facts. Listen to the truth. Go to those lines and see what they're putting out there, because the citizens are standing up, and we are filing legal documents to address these issues, that we don't want vaccines. We do not want our children vaccinated. We do not want our grandchildren vaccinated. Okay? Thank you.
The green light on the bottom, the base should be on.
I know everybody in this room is not quite old enough to remember when computers actually were born.
Can we just get your name for the
And
record?
My name is Michael Morrissey with Battleborn Patriots, Taking Nevada Back. Most of the people in this room remember the day computers came out. Most of the people in this room didn't even know what the internet was until the mid-90s. Now our kids have these things in their hand at all times. doing their homework or whatever it is they're doing, social networking, Facebooking, whatever. There's something came out today that they aren't going to get to see on my Facebook. Come on, wake up. I'll read this to you. At the entrance gate of the university in South Africa, the following message was posted for contemplation. Destroying any nation does not
President?
require the use of atomic
We are limited
bombs.
to the
Yeah.
plan right now.
Sorry, we got to limit this just to the plan itself.
Well, you don't have anything in there about this, but I'm still going to read it.
Well, you can read it during public comment, but this pertains just
Well,
to the
how long
plan.
ago was that? How long was that going to be?
Next item.
Okay, I'll do it then.
Thank you.
But the thing is, with that in mind, we are educating our future. They deserve to have the same minimum education of the Iowa school systems. That was the standard
Mr.
back in
President,
those days.
You got to
All right,
stay on
thank
the
you.
plan right now.
We'll be here. Any additional public comment on this topic? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close public comment on this topic.
Mr. Cassiopo, I have emails.
I'm sorry, I meant to say in person. Yeah, you have comments remotely?
I do, Mr.
Please.
Cassiopo, thank you. You know, most of these topics are with regards to no masks at school. So I'm going to go that and as well as unvaccinated students. So I'm going to proceed then with the plan. It doesn't specifically reference the plan, but
If
Which-
if the plan covered it, I think it's fair
okay.
to be included in this.
Okay, thank you. This first comment is from Charlotte Stewart. The vaccine isn't safe for children and should not be used in healthy people because they are more at risk of death from the vaccine. We're at the point where we should be treating COVID like the flu, but instead there is talk of continuing this nonsense. COVID variants are a lie. The vaccine is causing weak immune systems that can't understand COVID, and all the students there is a supposed variant. The counties around us have lifted their mask mandates, but now there is talk of forcing our children and teachers to be vaccinated before removing them. This is a violation of our freedom, discrimination, as well as a direct attack on our children and teachers' health and well-being. If something is not done, legal actions for violation of these rights will be taken. Please stand up for our children. Enough is enough. Forcing online education or masks is not the answer. Please bring back in-person learning, no mask, no forced vaccines. Also leave equity and LGBTQ out of the curriculum. This kind of curriculum is a
Renee,
Trojan.
sorry, I'm going to just stop you on that part of it.
Okay.
That's not part of this topic.
Okay, let me go on to the next.
We have time for that topic.
It's from Gregory Bentz. Says, let the kids breathe. The parents can decide. You are accountable to us. Rochelle Willett. Board members, we homeschooled last year because of the masks and will do so again solely because of masks if they aren't dropped from school. Stop telling us it's required and that your hands are tied. They're not. The mayor has given you the power to choose for your children despite what the CDC guidelines say. Many other areas have dropped masks for children. It can be done. Those areas have all proven that the masks are not needed because children are not transmitters. Please follow the good science that has proven masks are not just useless but harmful to our children. This comment is from Nancy Jones. No more masks at school. The mayor has given the school board the power to determine how to proceed for the coming school year. You need to implement the will of the parents and people who elected you and not the dictates of unelected federal officials. Anyone who feels safer wearing a mask can wear one, but no one, especially children and youth, should be required to cover their face and reduce their breathing capacity by strapping a germ-ridden mask to their face to participate in taxpayer-funded schools. Stop it now. The next comment is from Lori George. Please consider no mandatory mask for the upcoming school year and allowing parents to make their decision for their families. According to the CDC, it is up to the school board to make the mask decision and are no longer required to require masks to be worn at school. You have the authority to put these personal health decisions back into the parents and individuals who work at the schools' control to decide for themselves, as it should be. This comment is from Rachel Reyes. Our family is against masks being mandated for unvaccinated children. If the school district decides to make it mandatory for unvaccinated children to wear masks, we have decided that we will homeschool our 3 kids. Laurel Barrett. I am unable to attend the meeting in person, but strongly believe our students need to get back in school without the mask mandate. There are only children once, and a school experience will last a lifetime. This comment is from Trevor Oxborough. Listen to the parents who show up at each school board meeting. Do you require masks for unvaccinated students? Do not require masks for unvaccinated students in this coming school year. Do not institute othering policies to unvaccinated students in the upcoming school year. Do not hide behind the mayor or governor and shirk your duty to educate the students equally. This comment is from Ted Oxborough. Listen to the parents. Do not require masks for unvaccinated students in the coming year. Do not institute othering policies to unvaccinated students in the coming school year. Do not hide behind the mayor or governor and neglect your duty to educate students. This comment is from Jill Oxborough. And Mr. President, it says the exact same thing again. Do not require, do not institute othering, and do not hide behind the mayor or governor. And this comment is from Janice Baldwin. Please do not require masks for anyone this coming school year. This is putting too much fear in the children. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, everybody, thank you. Appreciate your comments sincerely. I'm going to bring this back to the board. This is an item for possible action. So any further comments or discussion from the board? Rich?
I'm just wondering, there was concern expressed about 5A, highly encouraging the use of face masks. Do we want to soften that a little bit? Just put encourage instead of highly? We'd encourage it, and maybe by taking out highly encourage, it may soften it a little bit to the parents. Just a thought.
Laurel?
I just think that we do have to give ourselves some protection. And those who don't want to wear masks are not going to wear masks. And it's not going to be required of them, but those who maybe are unsure, there may be some, and if they want to wear masks, they should be able to wear masks. I think if this is the language that is coming out from the CDC, that they're highly encouraging, and I think most stores that you go into have a sign saying masks are not required for the fully vaccinated, and I'm sure many of the people in there without masks are unvaccinated as well. But I think that does provide some protection from liability to us. So I'm okay with leaving it in there just for that reason.
Yeah, I think for us, just my opinion, as a school board, when we do a comparison to businesses, it is, I think it is a bit of an apple and oranges thing. It's a personal business. They can, within reason, do whatever they want. We do have some folks we do have to answer to, we do have to listen to some degree. But I do like the idea that we're not requiring masks. I think we're to a point where people can be left to make their own judgment. And I do respect the fact that while, certain things aren't law, we do have to listen to folks and what some of these entities have to say to include our people, our population and whatnot. I agree with Rich, highly encourages, I don't know, it's wordsmithing at this point, but
What's the question on this?
Sorry, we closed public comment, so I can't reopen it again. It's a violation of the open meeting law. I know, but it is.
Well, what did you do with the swine flu?
So I didn't do anything with the swine flu.
Well, there wasn't an issue with this.
Anyway, so my sense is, I know we talked about this before. I'd like the language to say, the use of face masks for unvaccinated persons is encouraged, and not necessarily that we solely encourage it. And I think that's all I have to add on that. Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
I'm just not sure, what's the difference?
I think it's subtle, but I think, what I'm hearing from folks in the audience and from others on both sides of the issue is that words do make a difference. People interpret things in different ways. And when some people read this, they say, I mean, we heard it tonight, we're strongly encouraging it, and some people are attributing that to potential bullying and things like that, which I know we're not doing. We have policies against it, and I can assure folks we're not going to tolerate it. We don't, and if it's happening in our schools, we want to hear about it. Stacy?
I think we're gonna have more of a backlash bully-wise for people wearing masks. So I think that's something that we cover in our policies too. I'm not worried about that, but I think that there's gonna be more backlash there. I'm glad to see that we're doing away with the masks on the bus, generally just because of the NIAA allows us to be the ones that decide if we're having masks at our events. So then they don't have to carry their mask on the bus and then leave it in the bus when they go to do the activity. So, and I don't have any trouble going ahead and doing an action item tonight. I think we have given plenty of opportunities to get input on this. I think we have done a lot of wordsmithing on it. Highly recommended, whatever the board feels more natural with, I'm fine with, but I don't think that that would have to hold this item up so that, because our next board meeting is 2 weeks before school starts, and I don't think that that's prudent for us, for our students to have to wait another 2 weeks. So I'm more than able to make a decision tonight.
Great, thank you. Any additional board comments or recommendation for a motion? We have public comment out there?
Yeah, she's not liking it.
She's on our side.
Very well could be.
I was just going to say, whether you want to believe it or not, we did take a lot of your comments into consideration when this document was drafted. And I know it may not be perfect in your mind, but I think it's really the best we can do right now. And I think, I agree, I think that we have to go ahead and get something to the state. It is a living document that can be changed. So if we find that it's not working as we go along, it can be amended and changed. So I just want to, again, thank everybody for their input.
Okay, I move that the Carson City School Board District Board of Trustees approve the district's plan for in-person instruction, continuity of the services, and path forward for distance education for the 2021-2022 school year as submitted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further board discussion? The motion was as is. Correct? So not seeing any further board discussion, do we have any more public comment on this?
And my son suffered from the swine flu, and it was beyond horrible. Okay? I was terrified for my daughter to get it, and I don't remember any discussion about anything. And 14,000 children died. So
I don't understand where the liability comes in if it's the same thing. I mean, for one thing, it's impossible to see the schools, but my whole point is if something that killed thousands of children wasn't an issue, then why is this such a huge issue in regards to you being so concerned over liability? Anyone suing the school, there's an outbreak or...
No, thank you.
Robert Harris, just to give you a little feedback, last year,
Okay, so you can repeat it. Okay.
my daughter came.
Sorry, we had public comment from you already.
Oh,
So,
well, I was going to talk about the liability aspect of it because she brought it up. I had,
okay, yeah, but we can't just we also have the right to not repeat things one after another.
yeah, I'm not repeating.
Well,
So
thank you.
I'm giving a testimonial as far
Go
as
ahead.
what happened. So my daughter, how was school today? She said, great. We had 2 hours of extra play yard time today. Why is that? Oh, we had 2 kids throw up in their masks. So I called the school and I said, hey, do the kids have coronavirus in the school? Oh, due to HIPAA laws, we can't tell you that. So I'm not sure what the liability problem is, but they wouldn't tell me if anybody had coronavirus and we had, the janitors cleaning up the school. So I don't see I mean, it is wordsmithing, but I don't see how that matters.
Sure. Thank you. Do we have anybody that chimed in remotely, Renee?
No, Mr. Cassiopo.
Okay, I'm going to bring this back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 7, which is public comment. And I'll just read this. Comments will be accepted in person or through virtual participation via email. Comments may be made by members of the public on any matter within the authority of this board. Please note that public comment will be taken on items marked for possible action before action is taken, and members of the public are encouraged to comment on such items at the time they are being considered. Although members of the board may respond to questions and discuss issues raised, no action may be taken on such matters until the matter is placed on the agenda for action at a meeting of the board. In making public comments, speakers are asked to come to the table or podium, speak into the microphone and identify themselves for the record. Speakers are instructed to limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes. Regardless of whether the comments are made in person or through virtual participation, and to not simply repeat comments made by others. This is for discussion only. Any public comment?
Oh, here we go.
I'm glad to be back.
Welcome.
Michael Morrissey. I think this green light's on. See if I can
And
find
Michael,
this.
before you start, I apologize. I do have some people who signed in, but since I didn't say it in time, please, I'll let you go first, and then I'm going to call from the list.
I'm on your list anyway.
Okay, and then I'll bring people up who may not have filled out a form.
Got to put on my eyeballs. As I was saying before, most of us in this room, many of us in this room, were around before computers. Enter and delete were on the same end or different ends of the same stick called a pencil. In South Africa, the following message was posted for contemplation. Destroying any nation does not require the use of atomic bombs or the use of long-range missiles. It only requires lowering the quality of the education and allowing cheating and the examinations by the students. Patients die at the hands of such doctors. Buildings collapse at the hands of such engineers. Money is lost at the hands of such accountants and economists. Humanity dies at the hands of such religious scholars. Justice is lost at the hands of such judges. The collapse of education is the collapse of a nation. Therefore, I charge you with educating these kids in the same manner in which you were. High education. They need to know what rights they're giving up. Teach the Constitution. They need to know that how this government works is not like any other. Teach the Constitution. They need to know that world history is very important to maintain the authority of the United States in the United States. They need to know that Benghazi was a problem. They also need to know that Kenya doesn't have the same education system as we do, but yet they're further ahead than we are because of our education system today. Please teach the children properly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next we have, is it Maury Carland? You're good? All right. Let's see. Is it Johanna Packwood? Did I mess that up?
Johanna is fine.
Johanna, sorry.
I'm not sure which one's best. We'll go over here. Good evening. I'm Johanna Packwood, and I'm going to bring up the elephant in the room, which is critical race theory. Tonight, I come to you as a very concerned student on behalf of other concerned students. As a senior in high school, I have borne witness to the manifestation of critical race theory, and I will be the first person to advocate for the banning of this curriculum. I don't want to make this a left or right issue, but I understand what it's like to have your point of view and beliefs belittled, to be called out in class, and to be publicly embarrassed and criticized. Critical race theory is a radical ideology, not because of its root principles, but because it can't coexist with any other teaching. The responsibilities of our educators are set in stone. They are to teach us reading, writing, and arithmetic, and it has become very apparent that they have done a dull job. When high school seniors graduate with an irresponsible foundation of hatred for their country, but can't read at a 12th grade level, you know something has gone terribly wrong. First and foremost, we should be upholding the American story for all of its glory and not its discrepancies. Secondly, America has real competition with India and China. As our world continues its transition into a tech-based living, our competition grows, and it has become increasingly obvious Americans don't know how to compete in this new world. Not only are you forcing the hateful rhetoric down our throats, but you are actively failing to teach us how to compete, which is actually a disservice to you. You have made us complacent with second, third, fourth, and even last place. I don't just think that's a tragedy. I think this is a crime. Our educators are to teach us how to think and not what to think, and it seems like we have lost sight of that. So on behalf of the students we all care about so much, rearrange our priorities, take politics out of the classroom altogether, let's reinforce the fundamental teachings, and let's come to the conclusion that we are the next generation of competitors. Thank you.
Next, we have Robert Harris. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. Robert Harris, because the school district has not clarified what equity is, we are left with what national organizations defined what equity is. I have referenced greatschools.org multiple times for clarity of equity. We have also taken it upon ourselves to make up our own definitions of equity due to the lack of transparency from the district and the need for public education of parents on these new phrases. Either one of two things is true with our school district. Either we are lucky enough to live in the only school district that is not pushing education from an equitable lens, or our school board is not being honest with us. I'm going with the latter based on the two largest teachers unions saying they support CRTs and school and will fight for teachers who get in trouble for teaching this minutia of contradictions and opinion-based education. I thought facts of history were already being taught in schools, but the American Federation of Teachers Union Leader wants honest history, whatever that is. Over the weekend, I was able to get some insight into what a local high school teacher thinks about teaching CRT. Apparently, if you disagree with teaching equity, you are white and Republican. However, I see a lot of people from various backgrounds who are extremely upset over this topic. I would encourage everyone to look up Loudoun County, Virginia. According to bestplaces.net, Loudoun County is a strong liberal county, and the parents from multiple political backgrounds have come together to fight equity and CRT. I would suggest giving your staff and teachers some bullet points so they don't sound ignorant or narrow-minded. I thought taking someone's race into consideration when educating them was discrimination. When did that change? Either way, I am here to tell you that my 2 youngest children will not be attending your schools next year. My 6th grader was signed up for the AVID program next year, but we will not be participating in this program because your equity czar is in charge of the program. I have also convinced 4 other families not to attend your schools next year. Between homeschooling and our excellent religious schools, we have all found solutions that work for us. If I did my math correctly, that is $100,000 you will not be getting for your efforts. My goal is to reach $1 million. I also had the pleasure of talking to a current student who spoke about some intimidation and threatening of grade manipulation because of ideology differences from her male teacher. Hopefully this student follows my advice of contacting an individual that is collecting specific events such as this that are actionable. My hope for Mr. Stokes is you change your course and this does not leave a stain on your career when you retire. I believe it is far more effective to do everything in our power to give every child the kind of start that
Thanks, Robert. We're at 3 minutes.
Okay, the kind of future they deserve.
Thank you. Can I just put that? I'll take it.
3 minutes stuff.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Heather Coe.
Yes, that was beautiful what you said, and that's coming from a student. And you guys need to take people like Johanna seriously. She is in the school system, and I would like to know what kind of an out you're going to give parents like me, because I will not send my child to school. I told him he could walk out if there is any mention of any racial anything. You are not dividing children like this. I have looked up everything in regards to this. This is Nazi, evil, divisive, racist. And you're all right with that, and that's sick. And I want to know what kind of options you're going to give parents like me, because I am told my son he could walk out. You know, my daughter, her best friend, he's biracial. So my son's friend that he spent the weekend with, she's also biracial. So what do you say to the parents? Are they going to have to choose a parent that they like or dislike? You have not thought this through. This is so incredibly divisive and racist, and it should not be anywhere near our schools. And I want you to stand up for these kids. They need to, there is so much that they need to make up for after last year. And this should not even be an issue right now. The only thing you should be focusing on is that kids respect one another and they don't look at each other because of their skin color. I have different races in my family, and my nephew, he refuses to put it on any application for a job because because every time he does, he gets hired immediately. That's really gross. Instead, he puts white because he said he wants to be hired because he is the right person for the job. And you guys are destroying these kids if you do this. But I want to know what you're going to do for parents like me, because I'm not going to put my son through that. I'm not. So please come up with a way to fix this. because it's really cruel to do to kids. They don't see color. They don't, believe it or not. Thank you.
Okay, next, Lee, I'm not sure.
Elliot.
Elliot, thanks.
I went to public school.
Me too.
And I learned. If you are silent about your beliefs, I don't need a microphone, but if you are silent about your beliefs because you are worried someone will be offended, then your beliefs are not important to you, but rather what people think about you is. When you stand up for what's right and true, you will receive both hate and love, but everyone will know what you are fighting for. So guess what? Here goes. I never cared that anyone was gay until it was shoved down my throat. And I never cared what color or race you were until you started blaming me for all your problems. And I never cared about your political affiliation until you started condemning me for mine. I really never cared where you were born until you started erasing my history and blame me for my ancestors and all our society's problems today. And you know I never cared if your beliefs were different than mine until you said mine were wrong. But now I care. My patience, my tolerance are gone. And let me tell you this, I'm not alone feeling this way. There are millions and millions of Americans that feel just like I do. And sooner or later, you're going to have to deal with the truth. Because if you don't, then this great nation that we supposedly all love will tear itself apart at the seams and never, ever recover. I want to ask you a question. You with five kids. That's a rough, I just met somebody with 7 kids. You walk by a playground, what do you see? You see kids out there enjoying themselves, running, jumping, hugging. They don't look at color. They don't even want to look at color. They want to know who has the ball. They want to know who's the cutest. Look at that boy over there. We don't care what color they are. Race is no issue for the kids at all. None. If that's the case, guess what? You, we're all racist. If we believe that. And I don't care how strong you are that you say, oh, I'm not a racist, never have been. Guess what? You're wrong. We adults are responsible for teaching our kids to be racist. And that's a fact. Okay? Teaching CRT is teaching our kids how to hate one another. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Marie King?
I'm giving her my minutes.
Who is that? Sorry.
Go Barb, go Barb.
Barb Mathers, for the record, as stated by Marie King, she's giving me her time. No, it isn't. It's on, it's green. Just for starters, this forum is incredibly frustrating because there's absolutely no opportunity for discussion. Tonight's a perfect example of how inefficient this is. Parents across the nation are trying to speak at school board meetings and they're literally getting arrested. I'm grateful we get to talk in ours. We're cut off, and don't get to have very much time, but there is no opportunity for discussion. You guys listened to a ton of people say, we don't want masks, and then you voted to keep it in as highly recommending masks. Everybody who's here doesn't want that. All the emails who were sent in don't want masks. And it's in the plan that we're not having masks this upcoming school year, but it's also in the plan that things can change. The precedent has already been set that masks are necessary for basically saving the planet. Everybody who's here has told you at all the meetings that I've been to that masks don't do a dang thing. Literally, they are not helpful at all. It's a psychological Band-Aid. You've got something on your face that makes you think you're safe, but it's not doing anything. It's spreading everything more. I took my 3rd grader out of school and homeschooled him and had to continue to work, which is literally impossible because I didn't want him to wear a mask at school. I talked to him about it today. He actually wanted to come and talk to you guys, and I said, what would you say to the board? And he said, I would tell them I don't want to wear a mask. He's 9. He doesn't want to wear a mask. And he said, I'm just like you, Mom. I can't breathe. You can't breathe when you're wearing a mask. You can't think when you can't breathe. You can't study, and you're uncomfortable, and your heart rate increases, and you can't do anything. You guys are telling us to our face, we're not going to do masks next year. You haven't responded to my emails, you haven't responded to my emails, and you haven't responded to my emails. The rest of you have responded to some of my emails, but not directly answered all of my questions. I don't want masks in the school, period. You've got loopholes all over that stupid plan that masks are going to be possible in the future. None of us want masks. We don't want masks, period. If parents want to choose to wear them, if they want their kids to choose to wear them, that is up to them. And saying that people have the right to wear them is true. But we also have the right not to wear them. And I'm really sick of you guys siding with Sisolak and all of his emergency mandates that it's a year and a half later. Why are we still in a state of emergency? Why are masks even being discussed still? I don't understand why this is still being discussed. Sisolak does not care about his constituents. He doesn't care about our kids. He doesn't care that Las Vegas had a record number of suicides in 2020 from March 16th to December of 2020. It's a 9-month period. 19 children committed suicide. That's double what happened the previous school year. That's a lot of kids committing suicide. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want our children to be so scared that they have to wear masks everywhere. I see teenagers all the time in public. Adults aren't really wearing masks right now, but teenagers are wearing masks. They're literally terrified, and that pisses me off because you guys made them afraid. We should have never enforced masks. This never should have even been like Heather talked about. Swine flu, tons of people died. Way more people died from that under Obama. Didn't do anything. No masks, no mandates, no shutting down businesses. Sisolak literally destroyed the small business in Nevada. Yeah. Businesses were open for 40 years and they closed. And I mean, it's infuriating that he is able to have this kind of power. And I know that when the school board and the county commissioners and the sheriff are on the same page, that's when things are able to get done. You guys are hiding behind Sisolak. We have 13 out of 16 counties that are in the process of either being constitutional or are currently constitutional, and they're saying, guess what, Sisolak, we don't want to do what you're telling us to do. So we're not going to enforce masks. We're not going to mandate them. We're not going to make kids wear them on the bus. We are not going to keep something open in the plan that currently we're not wearing masks, but if something changes and when that wave comes in the fall, we're going to enforce the masks. I don't want that as a loophole or any kind of opening at all. Masks should not be enforced in the schools. I don't want my kid to have to go and be uncomfortable at school. And you mentioned that the kids that are wearing masks are the ones that are going to be bullied. No, that's totally the other way around. And any kind of division at all is not what we want to have in our schools. We don't want our children to be set up to be bullied. Middle school, high school, elementary school is hard enough as it is. We don't need to add anything that causes further division. And I'm calling you guys out. We really need you to stand up for the kids. No one in any of these meetings has said, man, we are so excited to be in the bottom of the nation. in education. We are so excited with the education that our kids are receiving. You guys have got to listen to the parents.
Thanks, Barb. We have Tim Smith. Tim? Tim Smith. We'll try him again. I've got one. Betsy and Richard, are they still here?
I'm still here, yes. I just want to, Betsy Strasburg, just want to make a quick comment that I know that trustee Crossman is a lawyer, right? So, but I don't really believe that what you said, that putting the COVID language in the reopening plan gives you any sort of immunity from anything. So I will investigate that, and I will get additional lawyer assessment to challenge your comment in this board meeting that putting the CDC language
Betsy, I would-
gives you immunity. Thank you.
Thank you. I would ask, I know people are upset about some of this stuff, and I get it, but I'd like to minimize addressing individual board members and address the board as a whole. Thank you.
And to be specific, I didn't say immunity. I said it's the potential to avoid liability because it gives you a defensible position. Immunity was given in the special session to other organizations, but not school districts.
And Mr. President, just as a reminder, we did have public comment on the plan already. The general public comment is
Thank
for
you.
items not on the agenda.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. Did Tim Smith come back in the room? Is he out there? Do you know? Do we have anybody else that hasn't signed in that wants to make public comment?
I just had a question.
The lady in the back first, she got her hand up first.
My name is Christine House. Pardon me? That button?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Christine Hosch, and I happily admit I don't have a child in the Carson City School District. My one grandchild graduated 4 years ago. I have a really good memory of his 8th grade experience. He was at Carson Middle School, and their civics project at Veterans Day was the poster with a parent or someone they knew that had been in the military. My son and his grandson, or his son, my grandson, worked on it extensively. I was very proud that he had that experience, my son, and I was glad that the school acknowledged that there was a place for the military in this country.
Amen.
What I'm very unhappy with now is even the thought of critical race theory coming to our school district. The idea that we are going to teach our children that I'm an oppressor because I'm white, and Johnny over here is oppressed because he's black or brown or a Native American is absolutely abhorrent to me and to any other thinking adult. That teaches racism, as many people have said tonight. And as a voting member of Carson City population, I want you all to know that anybody who pushes critical race theory as a member of this board is going to have at least one person vying for their seat in their next election.
So did you want to come up? You just have to come up to the microphone and state your name.
Is it on? No. It was green. Okay. I just had a question. I came to a meeting three or 4 weeks ago.
Sorry,
where
what's your name?
Brian Curland.
Thanks.
Where the topic was CRT. And I missed several meetings in the intervening time. And the topic, since we've opened up, or you opened up the public comments, a lot of people have spoken about CRT and equity. So my question is, at that first meeting that I attended a month ago or so, it was said that at that time you had no intention
of teaching CRT or the 1619 project, or having either of those items come up in the curricula for the coming year. So based on the comments that preceded me in this open section, my question is, did something change? Did something happen within the last several weeks? Or are people just reiterating their continued opposition to it, which I totally go along with for the reasons I stated before. It's not scholarly, it's just Frankfurt School cultural Marxism, that's all it is. But anyway.
Nothing changed on our end.
Nothing changed.
The same, yeah, some of the same discussions have been being presented by the public, and as you heard, we're not trusted.
Well, I'm a relative newcomer to Carson City. That remains to be seen. But I hope you stick to your word and keep it out of the curriculum.
Thank you. Okay, any additional in-person public comment? Yes.
My name's Karen Stevens. Should know me by now because I've been here for every meeting for the last 2 months. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm highly disappointed with some of the people on this panel that I know. And I would like to address the issue of what's the difference between highly encourages and encourages. I'll tell you what the difference is.
Karen, sorry, we've already had public comment on the plan. But
I'm
welcome
giving a definition.
We had public comment on the plan.
Okay. Well, apparently somebody needs to figure out what the difference between those two words are. Also, Mr. Stokes, I asked you at another meeting how much the Carson City School District got per child. And if you recall, you told me something around $7,000 something dollars. I was wondering if you might want to amend that figure since I happen to know what it is.
A lot of the questions that I get about per pupil amounts, I was referring to the general fund. We had here in the audience that same evening, our fiscal services director who said that number is closer to $11,000 per student.
Okay, but you didn't tell us that.
Yes,
I thought I did.
I didn't hear it. I was looking at you and I didn't hear it coming out of your mouth. Okay, another thing is there's a website that's called nomaskforkids.com. And on that website, parents are able to report adverse effects of wearing a mask and of receiving an experimental gene therapy shot. So on that website, there's stories of children that have experienced psychological, neurological, pulmonary, dermal, and cardiac effects from forced mask mandates. So I would encourage people to go onto that website and check it out and make any reports that they would like to. Again, that's nomaskforkids.com. Another item I'd like to bring up is that if there's any teachers listening or here and don't want to be in the teachers union, there is an open period between July 1st and July 15th that they can opt out of being in the union. And so time is of the essence if they don't want to pay the up to $850 a year to be in the union, that most of them encourage CRT, which apparently we're calling it equity. And that they go to the website nvteacherchoice.com. And that's all I have to say today, and I will see you in 2 weeks, since it's apparent that you don't really give a SHIT about what the parents
Karen.
and community care
Yeah,
about.
time's up. Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Sorry, behind you, sir. Yes, yes, ma'am. And then you're next.
Is this on? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Cindy Olivieri.
Sorry, what's your name?
Cindy Olivieri. And I've worked in the public schools for a long time. And I'm wondering, what do you have in place to train your teachers on how to handle all of this? Do you have any trainings or policies that will teach the teachers how they should behave with regards to the masks and other issues that have been brought up today? I didn't see anything in the plan, and I know you talked about the plan, but is there anything put in place for training teachers and educating them about how to behave to students, with students in their classrooms? Because you may have some rogue teachers out there that may want to push this ideology, even though it may not be mandated or in the state standards. So I just was wondering if there was something in place.
Just real quick, there is training that's conducted throughout the school year, and teachers go through training before the school year starts. And a lot of this information that we're hearing is, I don't want to say it's new, because obviously it's been out there for a while, but it's really hit a point of interest for folks recently. So I can't say if there is specific training to this, but I would think there would be. Richard, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
It is never okay for any of our teachers to treat students badly. That would be an expectation going into any school year, that if that occurred, I would expect to receive a call, which I would then work with the principal and the teacher, and we would try to find out what has gone on. But it's never okay to treat our students poorly.
Okay, thank you. I just, I know teachers that persist in their ideology, and that, they maybe give students a hard time one way or another, as she was saying previously, that I hope that doesn't happen, but I know it has. So I just was wondering if you had anything in place to kind of protect kids, or notify teachers that that behavior is not allowed.
No, thank you. I can tell you, I've had 3 kids in the district that now have graduated out, and whenever I've had concerns, and this is before I was a trustee, that I've had to bring it up to teachers or administrators or whatnot, I've always been welcome to voice my concern, and I never felt like I was pushed aside.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name's David Packwood. I'm a lifelong Carson City resident and a graduate of Carson High School. First off, I'd like to say thank you to all of you for doing this. This is clearly a difficult job. I don't envy you. I'm a proud father of Johanna, who spoke so eloquently tonight, and I'm thrilled that she is taking part in the American dream and her self-governance. And I just wanted to leave you all with a little anecdote. I'm a software developer and a manager of a small company in Reno that does automation services for major insurance companies. In the last year, we've interviewed over 60 local people. We've hired 4. Of those 60, in every instance, our locally educated, our natively educated people were drowned out by foreign students. They're hungrier, they're smarter, they are ready to tackle this world. They want this dream. And our students are fully unprepared for the competition that is coming. Since World War II, we pretty much had this stage to ourselves. But there's a new world out there, and these young people are ready to do it, and our kids are not up to the task currently. I understand the desire to teach them everything, but we need to focus on the areas where we need to be competitive in the future if we want to stay on top and continue to evolve and grow as we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Richard Nagel. I just want to voice a concern I have, and that is the growing homeschool movement that I have. There's a lot of things going on with this, and I just feel that there's a lot of people that are dissatisfied with the school system here, and I think that we really need to take a good, hard look in the mirror and see what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and why are we disenfranchising these people, and how we can bring them back in. But it's just food for thought. I want everybody to think about that because it's a lot of money we're losing with these people walking away from the school system. And it's getting bigger and bigger every day. And I want to find out what's going on with this movement. So I'm going to go to a class on homeschooling tomorrow night, find out what's going on. But again, we really need to take a sharp look at that. Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Maxine Bradshaw. I just have one comment. We just heard something about a week ago that was really disturbing that's related to CRT, and now they have something called SEL, Social Emotional Learning. Well, we heard from a Douglas County School Board member who came and met with us over a week ago, and he defined that. That is a precursor to CRT. That's an intro to it. And they're teaching that in Douglas County schools right now. So I want to make you aware that that's not acceptable either. It's just not acceptable. I don't care what name you call it by. But that is happening right now. And that is exactly, I spoke to a child with a grandmother who clarified what that is. So just be aware that that's exactly the same thing. So you can call it by any name you want to, but none of us here are in favor of CRT. We know where it leads. We're not in favor of SEO. We know where it leads. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional in-person public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close in-person public comment. And Renee, any remote public comment?
Mr. Cassioppo, I received additional comment, but it has with regards to our reopening plan. So unfortunately, I missed that during that particular time.
Okay, if you would just make sure that gets submitted into the record.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to close public comment. And again, we do thank everybody for coming. It is a difficult job to listen to all of this, but we do appreciate it. And we are now going to close item 7 and move on to item 8. Discussion on proposed changes to CCSD Regulation 517, graduation requirements. This is for discussion only. And Tasha Fuson. Tasha, maybe just give everybody a chance to funnel out if they wish to.
I know how to clear a room.
You cleared the room. Usually AJ does that.
Right?
Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, President Cassioppo. Tasha Fuson for the record. The approval of Assembly Bill 288 in the 2013 legislative session made significant changes to high school graduation requirements in Nevada. These changes were phased in as the State Board of Education made decisions related to specific requirements of the bill. So over the past, obviously 8 years, there's been a phase-in process of all those changes over the course of multiple years. The updates in our Regulation 517 reflect the most current requirements for students graduating from the Carson City School District in the class of 2022 and beyond. So some items to note start on page 2 of the regulation. I believe this is in your packet. The first thing you'll notice is that the middle column titled Honors Diploma has strike-through language. And the reason for that is because the honors diploma was phased out and the college and career ready diploma, which is the column to the right of that, was phased in. So that's part of that legislative session change. So that's what you're simply seeing is so the honors was related to class of 2019 and 2020. The last time we updated, obviously we're beyond that class and therefore we're just simply taking that language out of the regulation. You'll also notice down the left-hand column where it lists the courses or the names of courses, you'll see a strike through on the word social studies. We've changed that, or we're changing that to geography and world history. I want you to know that specific change was not part of the legislative session of 2013. It's simply that in the Carson City School District, what we teach in our schools is students have an option between geography and or world history to fulfill that credit. So we wanted it more specific to what we require within our district. So that's the change there. And underneath that one, computer science and applications, you see the word applications with a strike through, and it's replaced with technology. That graduation requirement was changed a few years back, is actually the first requirement for next year's graduating class to have that course with that specific curriculum. It changed the applications to more of a computer science piece. So instead of just learning how to use Word and Excel, there is more of an emphasis on programming and the behind the scenes, if you will, of technology. So that is what you see on page 2. If you flip to page 4, what you'll notice on page 4 is there is an addition to the required assessments to earn a diploma. So Senate Bill 322 passed in 2017 that states that a pupil in any public high school must take an examination as a condition for graduation containing a number of questions determined by the district, which are identical to the civics portion of the naturalization test adopted by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services of the Department of Homeland Security, effective in July 1st of 2019. In essence, what that means is all students in government classes now end up having to take a civics test. There is not a pass requirement, a score required for that. It is a participation requirement. So in essence, now what you see also then is end of course examinations with strike-throughs, and that is because those are no longer required for students to participate in what we used to refer to as EOCs. So now, in addition to passing your credit requirements, a student does have to take the ACT. That's the current adopted college readiness assessment in our state. So they have to take the ACT without a required score to pass, so it's participation. They have to take the science portion of the Nevada Science Assessment. Again, it's a requirement for participation, not for graduation. Not a pass rate for graduation, just participation, and now this civics assessment. So that's what you're seeing there. Then you see on page, as you go through the rest of the pages, after that up until page 8, what you're typically seeing is those same things that I already mentioned with the names of courses changes. That's what you see the strike-throughs there. And then on page 8, since the honors diploma was taken out of that first table, you see all of it, again, the verbiage, the strike-through on the language there. The only other thing to really note is on page 10. What I did with this, since there was some changes or really ambiguous language, I should say, in terms of what those scores are for a student to earn the CCR diploma, we actually put the scores, the required scores in there. So when you look at English, for instance, it says ACT English score of 18, right? Where the strike-through language below, it just says must meet the scores, set forth by the regions of the University of Nevada, et cetera. I thought it would be clearer to our families or anyone who would read this regulation to actually have the required score. So that was the rationale for that. Yes.
Get my microphone on. Tasha?
Yes.
How do those scores relate, or do they relate? Can you relate them to other districts, other states? Is that like 18 for a ACT English score, kind of what folks are shooting for, or?
So that's an excellent question. In our state, know that there's 2 different scores that you would pay attention to that are meaningful to schools or to districts. The state has set forth a lower score than what ACT recommends, for instance, that is used in our Nevada school performance frameworks for schools to indicate proficiency. I believe the reason why the state did that was we do test our students in their junior year, and students can, of course, continue to take the ACT throughout the end of the junior year and all throughout the senior year. But but it is a lower score than what ACT itself identifies as the college-ready benchmark that they use to say this is correlated to a student earning a C or better in that college-level course. Does that make sense? So that score is a little bit lower than, in all those areas, than what ACT itself would say is a college-ready score. But that's the score that's required for the College and Career Readiness Diploma designation. And then on page 12, you'll see that quite a bit of that it has strike through as well, and that's because it was the requirements for the class of 2019, 2020, 2011 on an alternative diploma. So again, old language, 2019, 2020, and 2021. And I believe, in essence, those are really the major changes. As you can see, most of it is just removal of language to try to clean up this 16-page regulation to make it a little bit more manageable for schools and for families. And again, the only real significant change, or addition, I should say, is the addition of that civics test.
I have on the civics test, I think that language that the Senate bill includes, that the test will contain a number of questions determined by the district, which are identical. So I just thought that was kind of funny that they say you can determine it, but they have to be identical.
But it has to be identical. And I would say to anyone who is listening or anyone on the board who might be interested, we are happy to share, for instance, the study guide that we prepare for our students if anyone's interested. We don't want to obviously put out an assessment out there directly for people to look at, but we're happy to put out a study guide if anybody was interested what was contained in that civics assessment. We have that.
Was going to ask a different question. I have one. On page 1, it says the student who fulfills requirements for high school diploma but has not fulfilled the plan set forth in the academic plan is still eligible for graduation. Do we still have that you have to do the senior project in order to graduate at the high school?
At Carson High School, yes, but it is not part of our graduation requirements for our county because Pioneer High School doesn't require. So that is a site-specific requirement.
So where would a parent find that? I mean, if they're looking for graduation requirements and we don't have it broken out here.
So that is in the Carson High School student handbook and all their graduation information that they send home to families.
So do we need to put it in here so that it is?
We can.
It doesn't pertain to all seniors, just one school.
Just, okay.
We could put, I'm happy to put a note in there. I will tell you that Carson High School is currently in discussions to transition requirements for their senior projects. And I think what we'd want to have happen is maybe for them to make their plan, solidify their plan and then be able to communicate that to families. And then we could definitely include that if that's the wish.
Not necessarily them, but maybe something in there that says that the high schools have a prerogative or whatever word Ms. Crossman would use there, that additional requirements by schools is applicable or whatever, just so that when they read this, they're not thinking that this doesn't supersede Carson High's obligations or whatever, but something in there to clarify that.
Absolutely. And again, I would request the leniency to be able to wait until they determine what their changes are going to be, only because I believe they're going to more clearly attach it to the College and Career Readiness Diploma piece. But absolutely, I concur.
Yeah, and I think it could be general. I don't think you have to wait for them to decide what they're going to do. I think it could just be a general thing in there that says that, you know, the high schools could have other requirements for graduation or something to that effort, and to look additional requirements.
I will, absolutely, I can do that. I will note too that, and I'm sure, I believe you're all aware, but in case there is anyone listening who's not aware, that the Carson City School District does have higher requirements for graduation or higher graduation requirements than the state. We require all of our students to earn a 4th year of mathematics and a 3rd year of science credit to graduate from high school. We also require 24 credits versus the state's 22 and a half. There is for families as part of their graduation plans or their academic plans, as commented here, because of the needs of the student, if there's unique individual needs of the student, those can be waived. There is a waiver process, and it does talk about that in this regulation, the exceptions. It's not a change, it's the same as it's been, but just to put that out there so that you're all aware of that. And then we do work, of course, with students who are on individualized academic plans for either IEPs or ILIPs for English language learners and 504 plans. So any students who have individualized academic plan that necessitates some adjustments to what we would consider our standard requirements for a diploma, we can make some adjustments with families and students on that.
And then the other thing is, it talks about the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Is that still applicable?
Yes, National Merit Qualifying Assessment is the PSAT taken in the junior year.
Tasha, back to the table on page 2 for the standard diploma. At the bottom, it says for standard diploma, required GPA is not applicable. I just wanted clarification on how to interpret that. We do have a GPA requirement to graduate.
Not for a standard diploma.
standard?
Students simply have to pass the associated courses. So as long as the student passes the course and gains the credit, so they have to have 4 English credits, but there's not a minimum GPA required for that. A student can graduate, we're hoping it's not going to have it, but with a point, 0.1 or not one, a 1 point something, I should say, not a point 1 something, but like a 1.0, which is basically a D average. So there's not a minimum requirement. So that is what that required GPA is. There's not any set, you just have to pass the required number of courses.
Okay.
And the same goes with the alternate and the adult ed diploma. Okay, this is actually just for discussion only, so.
Sorry, did my mic off. Any questions from the board? Anything else to offer?
I don't have a question, but I'd just like to say that I'm glad to hear that they're maybe going to change the senior project requirements, or whatever you want to call it. I think I've talked to you before, or some other people, about, I think it needs to be upgraded on what they do. So I'm hoping that's what they're looking at.
I know Principal Chambers has shared with me that he has, the senior project committee is in discussions about obviously coming off of the year that we had last year and some changes that they had to make because of closures and hybrids, et cetera, that they're looking at this opportunity to really see if they can make it more relevant to students. So I don't know what the outcome of that will be, but I do know his team is currently working on that. I mean, currently speaking, the expectation that students participate in it would still hold. I don't want anyone to think, that requirement's going to change. But what that means for students, to what extent it means, what it entails, I know they're putting those pieces together. And what they do is they share the information with all seniors through their English classes. There is they have a book that they have that walks students through the process. They also have it on their school website under senior projects. So I just don't want to give misinformation about where they're at. So my conversation with Principal Chambers was, a few weeks ago, and I don't know exactly where they're at, but I know that's in discussions for updates.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you.
We're going to take just a short break. Seriously, no more than 5 minutes, just if folks need to use the restroom or anything. So it's 9, I can almost see the clock, about 9. We'll call it 9:19. So 9:24, I'm starting up again. everybody. I apologize. I ran us 5 minutes over on the break, and I do apologize for taking up your time. But we are going to move on to item 9, discussion and possible action to designate critical labor shortages in special education and bus driver positions, and to allow acceptance of applications from retired teachers to fill positions in special education and bus drivers as allowed under NRS 286.523. This is for possible action, and we have Dr. Jose Delfin presenting.
Thank you, President Cassiopo and trustees. President Cassiopo, you summed up my entire report. I think we should just vote on it. That was a perfect summary.
I'm here to help.
Back in 2001, NRS 286.523 was passed, and it does allow the public employee retirement system to reemploy retirees and get their PERS benefit while teaching full-time or filling a critical labor shortage position. So I come before you tonight, as President Cassiopo described, to bring forth 2 positions that are very critical in our district right now. And the first one is special education teacher. We typically have about 6 vacancies per year. We've had that for a long time, easily for the last 10 years that I've been doing this job, for about 13. So at least 10 of those years, we've had vacancies in that field. It's a tough position to fill. It's a very labor-intensive position. There are a lot of IEPs and responsibilities associated with being a special education teacher. I can tell you I've been to many graduations at UNR and other universities, and I always try to hear for any special education graduates that get called across the stage, and I can tell you not very many, maybe 2 a year that I hear of a name that of somebody who wants to be a SPED teacher. So because of that, I come before you to try to get your approval, because we need this to be on the record. I submit the form, which you have in your board packet from PERS, that states on the title, Critical Need Position Designation Form. And it gives you an explanation of all of those items that I just listed. It's only to last for 2 years, so I'll probably come back in 2023 if I'm still able to do the same thing and give you some more information about what other critical needs may be. But I know special education has been one of those for many, many years. Trying to make sure I have everything covered here. What we've tried to do is try to recruit our own people from our staff, parapros, students that are going through the EDU 110 class to try to become teachers specifically, but also special ed teachers. We've had some success, but not as much to fill all those vacancies. We have posted all our vacancies, as you know, online, on college and career university websites, word of mouth. We recruit heavily within our region. We definitely try to get out there in recruitment fairs, and we beg, borrow, and steal wherever we can to find some good quality special education teachers for our district. So as such, that's going to be my first call to the board to get approval. And then the second position would be the school bus driver. And I want to say the same thing for this one, if I could just say ditto. But easily for the last 5 years, not quite as prevalent as special education teachers, but for the last 5 years, Cherie Fletcher and I have been really hard-pressed to try to find every bus driver out there to work for us. We typically have a vacancy of 2 that we have per year that go unfilled. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot of kids on a bus. So what happens if we don't have the bus drivers is we're doubling up on routes. Buses tend to be a little bit more populated, and it does take a little bit more time to collect all the kids. So with that, I know that we do the same thing. We advertise in the local area. You've probably seen me on TV, and lately I've been out there trying to address our shortages. in all three news channels. I don't like seeing myself on TV, but that's what it takes, then I'll do it. Joe's really good at it. I saw him out in the hallway. He's done a great job. So that said, on behalf of the Transportation Department, I'm also hoping that you approve bus driver as a critical need position for the Carson City School District.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Delphin? Stacy?
So I think we should just put one in for special ed. It's been recurring and recurring. I mean, there's nothing we can do there. Why don't we do that for the special ed parapros though? I think we have like 4 or 5 openings there. Why just the teachers?
That's a great question. I probably might do it next year. Mrs. Wilkie, I try to see a trend. I would say the last year we started seeing that trend of not enough special ed parapros. But I've got to see at least a few more years for that trend to come before you. So that's how this forum is set up. You know, I can't call it just because I see it that way this year. I've got to see a trend in it. So probably next year I'll come before you.
And then we've had the same problems with bus drivers. You've seen the ads on TV for Washoe. They're giving $2,000 bonuses, $1,000 referrals.
Yeah.
Do we need to up our pay? Do we need to start looking at that? Is that something that we need to look at the budget? Because we're only gonna have 66% occupancy, and it's a tough job, because isn't it, you do something in the morning and then you don't do anything till the afternoon kind of thing too, for the
Correct.
most part?
Correct, right.
So is there something that we need to look at as an organization to pull people back into that, where it would fit them, it would be, money, AJ?
I know you're missing Mr. Fueling. I know you want him to come up here, but
I think this is one way to fill it for this next year, but I don't see this trend going downward. I think it's something that we need to probably look at so that we can fix the problem instead of having to ask if there's a way to do that.
so Mr. Fueling and I and Mr. Stokes and Mrs. Fuson did meet about this the last couple of times that we've been together, and about doing some hiring bonuses. And Mr. Fueling hopefully has some good news that we can go forward with that.
Well, I don't know about good news just yet. We have to talk more. Sorry. But Trustee Wilkie, AJ Fueling for the record. One thing I just want to bring to your attention, because it really, I mean, the news from Washoe was kind of big news, and that's a lot of money they're throwing around. Going back to my kind of boring side of things and this whole new funding plan and the hold harmless and all that. So you are hearing about districts doing this sort of thing, and you have some districts that have come out of in this new funding model in a much better place than they were going into it. And so you have like Clark County, Washoe, Lyon, all around us that have more money now than they ever had. And so the ESSER money on top of that, which you can use for, you're not supposed to use for like bonuses and things like that, but you can hiring incentives and some kind of maintenance incentive. And I don't know everything about that one. But they're just in very different places. It's not an apples to apples comparison to look at Washoe and us, unfortunately. I really wish that was the case, but it is something that we've been discussing, and I don't know exactly where that'll go, but clearly it's a concern. Otherwise, he wouldn't be up here. So,
and I just think we need to hear that you guys are looking at different ways, and because you guys don't, pat yourselves on the back saying you're looking at different stuff, that kind of thing. You guys are always real tight-nosed, and then think a lot of people think that we're just, we don't care or whatever. And that's the other thing. I know our budget's tight, but now with the COVID thing going away and stuff, they can start at Burger King for $15 an hour. So I'm really getting nervous about especially our classified staff. I mean, I think the big thing is our benefits. I think we need to really hold on to those and promote those to have people think about the future, you know, where you got your health insurance, you got PERS and that kind of thing. But I think it's something, and I know that the funding formula is not in our favor, but maybe we just need to look at other ways to promote different things. And I mean, because we have a shortage in custodians. I mean, you look at the website, there's a bunch there. So I'm getting nervous about that level of people because of, you know, Burger King for $15 an hour, Harbor Freight is $20 an hour, everybody's hiring. And we want to still keep the cream of the crop because this is the best district ever. So we have to keep that bar. But it's just something that I just wanted people to advise that we are looking at those kind of things. We're not just not trying. It's just people aren't out there.
Trustee Wilkie, you took the words right out of my mouth. I did say to the reporters, and they didn't actually put this on the news, but at $14 an hour, let's say, as starting pay, whether you're looking at nutrition or custodian, when you total up the benefits, we have great insurance benefits here in Carson City, and PERS, you're looking at $50,000 that is spent for that particular $14 an hour job. And I tried to convey that on the news to let them know that there are other benefits or extras that happen as a full-time employee here for the district. Also promoted future careers, because once you have your foot in the district, you can move up to any other jobs that you want. I know that we have an aging staff. I'm going to be facing retirements, and it actually started 2 years ago. As the staff ages out and we have more retirements, there's going to be more opportunities for promotions into supervisory, higher paying positions. So you may start out at $14 an hour, but that doesn't mean that's where you're going to stay when you end your career here. We're also working with Mr. Rodina in the work-based learning area and trying to recruit our own students into careers into the school district. So this year we have a handful of students that are working as custodians all over the district. So, I mean, I've said it for years. If you start at 18 as a full-time person, you can retire at the age of 48 with a full pension. And the neat thing is we've had people starting classified, go into para positions, and then become teachers. The next level, folks, is those teachers that have come from our own stock, if you will, become school administrators. And that's my next level, is as we go through all the different categories of employment here in the school district, and I think I'm going off topic now, is to keep hiring from within. But that's really the main recruiting effort. To answer your question a very long way, Mrs. Wilkie, is our best success is hiring from our own folks in Carson City.
Thank you. Mike?
Well, and I was just going to say, we've been experiencing shortages in education for years and years now, and it's only worse with this job market in every industry. People aren't working, and there's a lot of incentives right now for people to not work yet. And so I think we're kind of battling a bigger issue at this point, and I think that when you really look at the culture that surrounds education, look at what we experienced tonight. And the job has become devalued and not real respected in a lot of ways. And it's tough to encourage young people to want to go into a career like this when you could make a lot more money doing probably a much easier job when you look at a college career. So I think it's just kind of a systematic type thing right now.
Yeah, I know it's a challenge, and I appreciate what you guys are doing. I mean, my feeling is, and it's contrary to what our budget allows us to do, but I'd like to see us get to a point where our starting salaries for those types of positions can be upped so that it's more appealing to folks.
I agree with you, Trustee Cassiopo, and I've been looking at those salary studies across the nation.
Sure. Richard?
By designating the bus drivers the critical need, that could be any retired state employee, right, or county employee that could apply, not just school district employee.
Correct. So we'll hire you, trustee Varner.
After
I'll
tonight?
Be a conflict of interest with him serving as a trustee, so he could resign as a trustee to.
That was his point. Okay, this is an action item. Any other questions, or does someone want to make a motion?
Can I make a motion?
You can.
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees pursuant to NRS 286-523, in light of the efforts made by the district to fill the open positions in special education and bus drivers, as outlined by Dr. Delphin today in the documents submitted, we are making the findings required by the statute, and we adopt the written findings made by Dr. Delphin in the Nevada PERS forms presented to the Board of Trustees, and based on those written findings, we declare that the statutory provisions provided in NRS 286-523 have been met, that there is a critical shortage of labor for special education teachers and bus driver positions for a period not exceeding 2 years.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, second by trustee Ramirez. Any further board discussion? Seeing none. Any public comment on this? Seeing none.
No, Mr. Cassioppo.
Back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries.
Awesome. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Dr. Delphin. Okay, item 10. Discussion and possible action to approve the Nevada Association of School Boards, NASB, nominations to be considered for recognition during the 2021 annual conference. This is for possible action, and I'll lead us off here. At our last board meeting, we were at first hoping to have our nominations in, but we just needed a little bit more time, give it a little bit more thought so we don't miss anybody. And I think that was successful. We have a pretty good list of folks here. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what we want to do is, or what we need to do is narrow this down to the nominees, and we need to get write-ups on each of these folks. Some we might have, and we just have to update, but we have to have this submitted by August 13th, which only gives us another board meeting to review anything we need to review. So what I'd like to do is go through the list of nominees and see if we, 2 meetings, I'm sorry, that's right. 2 meetings so we can get started on these write-ups for folks, if you will. So starting off, Educator of the Year, and I might miss something.
Joe?
Yeah, Mike?
Could I recommend, if you go through the nomination forms just in the order they are, so that, because I think we called them different things than what they might be.
Okay, fair enough. So. Yeah, no, I'm trying to get there, sorry. Fingers aren't working. Okay, so we have NASB Individual School Board Member of the Year. And it might take me longer to go through here. Maybe I'll call on everybody if you had a recommendation there. Richard, let's start with you. I don't.
You recommended Joe.
I think that was me. I recommended Joe and Keith Neville from Mineral. Those are the only ones I could think of that were 2 years. And Joe, you haven't won a NASB award, have you?
No.
Okay. So that was one of my reasons.
And this is for individual school board member of the year. Keep in mind, there's a category for veteran and new.
So, and I nominated Joe also, and I believe we have a nomination written up, which is kind
That'll
of
work.
a win-win. So can we?
Path of least resistance right here.
So I move that we nominate Joe Cassioppo for our individual school board member of the year.
Second.
Okay.
I'll write that one.
Oh, I'm.
Move on to. I don't take any of this personally. Yes, sir.
Just so the record is clear that we haven't actually approved a motion before you take public comment on all of it, I would suggest maybe just calling it nominations. with a second, and then you can have one vote at the end when they're all.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's what we'll do, just to be clear. These are just nominations. And, no. So now we have NASB Award to an individual friend of K-12 public education or K-12 public education advocacy organization.
And I did the Rotary based on the air purifiers. And, yeah, Holiday on Heroes. Those were the two organizations I thought that stood out this year.
Do we have any other nominations? Richard?
I missed who you nominated, I'm sorry.
The Rotary Club for their donation of air purifiers, and the Heroes for Holiday. Those were the two that.
Okay.
And I guess it's.
Okay. Any other nominations? Seeing no, oh,
Just a thought, because I really like what Rotary's done. I'm just reading the thing, the description of the award, and it's recognized by advocating on behalf of K-12 public education across the state, particularly during sessions. So did the Rotary advocate during the session? No.
But it says, if you really read it, it says individual friend of K-12 public education or public education advocacy organization. So I think we could do Rotary. I mean, we could nominate them. If the committee doesn't select them, they don't select them. But I mean, we could
Right.
still nominate them for being a good partner. Yeah.
okay. Just, we're going to do it at the end. We're going to we'll make a motion and then we'll second it then. So the third one is NASB Board Secretary.
Are you gonna do the vote, and then
I'm gonna
are
do
you
it all-
gonna assign who's writing what? I'm
going to do it all at the end.
Not me if I get Joe's.
Okay, so NASB Board Secretary or Administrative Assistant or other board support staff person of the year.
So, Mr. President, one of the things I was thinking reading through this is I think Raymond Medeiros would be a great person. He did a lot of outreach and coordination of outreach with families and communication. And there were a lot of nights that it was Rich, Renee, Raymond in here. So I think that he'd be a great person.
And I nominated him for the director, but he's not a director. I didn't realize he didn't have that position.
Okay, do we have any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to NASB District Level Administrator of the Year, impacting student achievement. I had Valerie Dockery nominated. I think, given the budget cuts and things that we've been facing and the ability to write grants, she's been kind of at the forefront of many successful grants and been a long-time advocate and great asset to our school district.
And Mr. President, if I could just interject here, just to add a little more information, Mr. Medeiros is a director. So he certainly fulfills that that level of expertise and duty in his position.
Okay, Mike?
And I was also thinking that along those lines, I know Rich doesn't want the headache, but I think Tasha's done a great job of really kind of shoring up some curriculum issues, and this has been a really tough year, and having to really navigate some tough waters and untreaded waters. And so I think she'd be a great person in that. I also think AJ won last year with his work with Paul. So I would say that I think Tasha would be an outstanding nominee also.
And I still like Carrie Pryor for that one. We did her last year. I think the work that she does is incredible. Oh, am I in the wrong one?
Is she? She's not an administrator, is she?
No.
She is now. So I think in terms of being able to write it up, we might be premature. Yeah.
You can do 2 for the district level administrator, impacting student achievement. So we're thinking Tasha and Valerie
Yeah.
for this, and then
Do we?
Raymond is also a director, but I think he fits in the board supports, other board support staff too.
And Mike called me on that one, and I think he's right. That's probably the better place for him to win.
Okay. Okay, so we have Valerie Dockery and Tasha Fuson for District Level Administrator of the Year impacting student achievement. Okay. Next, NASB Innovative Educator of the Year.
I nominated Mimi Laughlin from Boardwalk. Everybody speaks very highly of her. She is very energetic. She's always available to help. She's a TOSA right now, but the feedback I'm getting is that she's helping any teacher, anytime, and I just think she'd be a great nominee.
Okay. Mike?
I nominated Ananda Campbell, and she, she works with everybody at that high school. She works with people in the elementary schools and the middle schools. So she not only collaborates with them, she's co-teaching lessons, she's on the Food for Thought board, she's doing tons of things, working with the library in the community, and I think that she's one of our unsung heroes that we kind of keep taking from, and she doesn't get a lot of recognition, she doesn't ask for a lot of recognition, and so I think that she's very deserving of an award like this.
And if you'll remember, she brought up the project that she's working on. That Carson High yearbook digitalization and stuff that she's doing is incredible, and preserving history, not just for the high school, but for our city and our state. And that's a huge undertaking for her and Mrs. Quinn. So I really think that gives her a little bump up this year that we didn't have last year, too.
Right. And in this category, we can only bring forth one nomination. So.
And to be fair, I think all of our educators were innovators this year in so many ways that it's going to be, it's probably going to be, this is always a very competitive category at NASB, but I think all of them.
Oh, I figured that was a given. Yeah.
Okay, any other nominations, or are those the two we're considering so far? Okay, moving on. We have NASB Local Governance Team of the Year. We won it, yeah, didn't we?
No, 2 years ago, we won School Board of the Year.
Oh.
And then last year, we won, not last year, but, was it last year? We were governance team.
Not last year.
The year before.
Sorry, I'll turn my mic back on. I did notice that we,
Governance.
there's not a School Board of the Year
Anymore.
category anymore. It's just
Right.
Local Governance Team of the Year. So that
For
includes
superintendent.
the superintendent and the school board.
Kind of it's a question I'm just asking all of you. When we say Governance Team of the Year, very few districts do the coordination I think we do with the city. Is it reasonable to think about like a joint nomination, the school board with the Carson City supervisors? Would that be unique enough to, or you think that's stretching a little bit?
I mean, I think we could put that as a factor in there, but we are the governance for the school district.
Right.
So, I mean, that coordination effort could be,
Could just be part of the write-up.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We'll pat ourselves on the back. From what I've heard tonight, I think we're a shoo-in.
I don't know, I almost thought about Washoe with their 12 hours of public comment, but
Okay, let's go to NASB Media Award for Outstanding Education Reporting in a television, radio, print, or online journalism format.
Well, you know, I've, not only around here, but I see Jessica in around Dayton. I see her at other events. I think that she's one of those people that's in the room that people don't always know she's there, and she does get the message out for us. So I think that Jessica for sure.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Then we have NASB Director of the Year.
This
This-
is for a one of the 17 board of directors, and I think Mike is ours. I think that's good.
Okay. Any others? Okay. Moving on. NASB New School Board Member of the Year.
that's Richard. Because Lupe won last year. We're going
Well,
for the sweep.
And I put Don in there for the work he's also
yeah.
he does with the band, and I think that
No, all the time.
I think that's the same thing you said last year about.
It is.
Lupe.
We're going to give him the Humble Pie Award.
Yeah.
Next year is yours.
No, fair enough. We're not going to force an award on you.
My award would be not getting an award.
There you go. Okay. So next is NASB School Administrator of the Year.
I had
And-
Dan Brown because the administrators made him Administrator of the Year. That was my basis for that.
Right.
Nominate two so we can choose either elementary or middle or high, or
Yeah, and I had Jennifer DeJoseph for the work she's done at Fremont. I think she really came in there and was an effective leader.
I also had nominated Dr. DeJoseph.
Well, and I also think that for this being Bob's first year at the high school, and let's be honest, our high school is a beast. Tasha could tell you. I mean, he not only did he do that effectively, but we didn't have big problems getting a new principal in a school that size. I think that speaks volumes in a pandemic. I think that he's done a phenomenal job for his first year.
Yeah, no, I think those are three good nominees. We're going to have to whittle it down to two. We have Dan Brown, Jennifer DeJoseph, and Bob Chambers. Okay, next is NASB School District Employee Making a Difference. This is somebody who works behind the scenes to impact student learning and achievement.
Letitia. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is another category where we can submit two nominations.
So I wanted to nominate the nurses because they had to go above and beyond and they had to do the COVID thing. I want to do the nutrition staff because they were the ones that worked every single day of that COVID, during COVID and then afterwards. And the custodial staff. Those are my three
I
nominations.
think we need a person, because if we just do a category,
No, but
But-
I'm just saying.
and I also, so at the high school, we have Bridget Gordon, who does a lot of work with different students and groups, and another hardworking person that's just kind of behind the scenes really making an impact. Also, my friend Tara Sacklarius, the PE teacher at Seeliger, does just about everything at that school, and she's not usually recognized for it. She's just kind of working behind the scenes. And then Carrie Pryor, I think all three of the people I chose are also really beneficial for morale. And this has been a year that we've needed those cheerleaders. And so I think that that's a component that we really want to look for, is people like Tara, Carrie, Bridget, who are really keeping people going, keeping things positive, because that's good for the kids and our staff.
Okay, so as far as individuals go, then we have 4 nominees for this category, and we'll have to,
Since I have to nominate an individual, then I want to do at least, I only know is the nurses, so Sheila Stories, who I would like to nominate. I don't know who's ahead in nutrition anymore.
okay.
I think the nurses do need some recognition because they did work very, very hard. I just want to throw out, I nominated, I just want to get on the record, Victoria Smith, school social worker at Carson Middle School. I think she's doing a good job there with the kids, especially during the pandemic. And then, I know this doesn't fit the category, but I'm going to throw it out there. I nominated Louis, the crossing guard at Borbeck Bray. That guy is just a really good face for the school. I mean, he knows every kid. He knows almost every parent. He's out there just always very happy, greeting everybody. He's just a terrific example of a school employee, I think.
Okay, so we have our work cut out on this one.
That is such a tough category, because especially this year, there are so many people that make and that have made such a difference. I think he's still working. He's not my kid's bus driver anymore, but Mr. Castro knew every kid that got on his bus. And he now is the sub, so he runs whatever route, he runs all the routes. But, I don't know. There's so many people that impact our kids.
Well, I think what we have to do is, give some thought into, I mean, all these people are deserving, there's no question about that, is, based on the climate we're in and what we've gone through, who we think has the best chance to stand out, during a review panel review. All right, so that said, let's move on to Veteran School Board Member of the Year.
Well, Joe, we put you for something else. Actually, I think this is the one you had to have 2 terms, correct? Stacy's already won the award.
No, more than one term.
More than one term.
No, I was individual. I wasn't old.
Oh, okay. So I think that I would say we have Laurel, and then I also thought of in Lyon County, Bridget Peterson, who was the president of NASB prior to Laurel, who does a lot of things, not just advocating for all of the school boards with the legislature, but she does some other things behind the scenes, and she has asked me not to nominate her. She said do that in several years, but anyway, I think
We have to have her and Dawn go to lunch.
yeah, her, Dawn, and Lupe. It'll be a great conversation.
The state who has been serving, because sometimes there's really good board members that are in their last year across the state and that in other districts, and so. Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Laurel and Bridget, those are 2 great names to bring forward. Okay, so just as a review then, we're gonna just go back and hit this one more time, and then we'll see if we can whittle it down to where we can make a motion. So we've got NASB Individual School Board Member of the Year. So that is Joe, me. We have, so that's a no-brainer, we're down to one. Don't argue that away.
And like I said, I'll write that one.
NASB Award to an individual friend of K-12 public education or K-12 public education advocacy organization. And sounded to me, if I got it right, that we were talking the Rotary Club. And I think we have to be specific. Is it, technically there's 2 Rotary clubs, aren't there, in town? There's Sunset and and so we just want to make sure we nominate the correct one.
The air purifiers.
It was the Noon Rotary Club.
Yeah, okay.
And I think the other important thing is that they recognize a high school senior every 2 weeks or every month, every week.
Yeah.
And they give them,
And they recognize a teacher of the month.
Yeah.
And all of those recognitions have monetary honorariums associated.
Right. And not that but it's indirectly associated, but we've had 3 exchange students over the years, and Rotary was instrumental in the exchange program. And those kids come into our schools and assimilate.
That's cool.
They've done well there as well.
And ours have done the same going over.
Yeah. Okay. Board secretary or administrative assistant or other board support staff person of the year. And the only name I heard here was Raymond Medeiros. And is that a appropriate category for Raymond?
I believe so. Other board support staff
Yeah.
person.
I think that's where it works, it fits.
They have
Okay.
to do a lot of supporting of this board.
Okay, district level administrator of the year impacting student achievement. And we had Valerie Dockery and Tasha Fuson. And each board can nominate 2 for this category. So unless I missed somebody, that could be our 2. Those could be our 2. Okay. NASB Innovative Educator of the Year. And this is one individual, but we have 2 people brought forward, Mimi Laughlin and Ananda Campbell. So we want to counterpoint this?
Still going with that. Mrs. Campbell.
Okay, well, why don't we just go down the board? Mike, what's your recommendation?
I'll say Ananda.
Okay. And I'm sorry, Stacy, you,
Mrs. Campbell, yep. I know.
okay.
Just-
Don? Okay. Lupe? Okay. Think we got it figured out? Sorry. Sorry, Rich. No, both fantastic choices, no doubt. Okay, NASB Local Governance Team of the Year, and that would be the Carson City School District, unless anybody wants to argue that away. I'm going to move on to the next category real quick. Media Award for Outstanding Education Reporting in a Television, Radio, Print, or Online Journalism Format. And we had our very own Jessica. Okay. Yeah.
And whoever writes that has to put in the Mother's Day story, because that'll just make everybody cry.
And NASB Director of the Year, Mr. Walker. Okay. New School Board Member of the Year, Trustee Varner. And School Administrator of the Year. And we can bring forward 2, and we have 3. Dan Brown, Jennifer Ward-Joseph, and Bob Chambers. And again, I think it's not just words, but they're all great choices. I'll just put in a vote for Jennifer because again, I've watched what she's done over at Fremont. I've gone over there. I've seen all of them in action. They've all done well, but she came to us several times. She set a plan, asked permission for us to trust her and give her plan a chance, and we saw success, and that's why I voted for her. But why don't we, again, we'll just, the fastest way to do it is just go down the table. And Mike, we'll just start with you again.
I would say I'll vote for a high school and an elementary, so I'll say Bob and Dan.
Bob and Dan, okay? Bob and Dan?
Because Dan was nominated by his peers, and that's my biggest thing.
Sure. Don? Okay. Lupe? Laurel? Right. And I too am Bob and Jennifer. Okay, so Bob and Jennifer are moving forward. Yeah, no disrespect to Principal Brown. He's truly fantastic. Okay, school district employee making a difference. I ran out of paper with all these nominations, so bear with me. We can bring forward 2. And again, we have Letitia, Bridget Cordon, Tara Secularis, Carrie Pryor, Sheila Story, Victoria Smith, and I don't know Louis' last name, Louis the crossing guard.
I have it here somewhere.
And so, what is it? Meritory. Okay, I'm just writing them down real quick so we can.
I don't know if Louis really fits the category after I read it.
Yeah. So why don't we, I would normally, Rich, why don't we start with you this time? We'll go the other way.
I have one conflict I can't vote for that was brought up. But I do think nurses deserve some. Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. I would say Letitia, and I would reserve the second choice because I got a conflict.
Okay. Laurel.
So on this, I'm trying to think of what are we going to write about? Because I know everybody's doing good, but people who are nominating, if you could give a plug about what we're going to write about, I think that would be helpful too. I don't know. Yeah. Like what are
What are you going to write about?
What do we, I mean, I already wrote for Letitia last year, and I know she is fabulous, so I wouldn't be opposed to nominating her again. And then between Sheila and Bridget, they both have done really good things. I don't know specifics to put either one to make a judgment on that, because I think they both have good things. So I'm not narrowing it down for you. So
You're not?
I'm sorry.
Like Jeopardy, though, I can hear the music. You want us to come back to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Lupe.
I vote Leticia and Bridget Gordon. Bridget really helped the students consider, or she strongly encouraged them to go to college. I saw her working with students on an individual basis. And when I was out there at the high school recruiting, she would bring students to me, and I could see the passion that she had in these students and the time that she invested in them to stay positive and to move forward with their education. So I see that she did a lot for the students, especially this year of the pandemic where they really needed that. So I feel that I would have a strong vote for her. So, and in fact, I could help with the letter of nomination. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Don.
Letitia and Tara.
Letitia and, I'm sorry, who? Tara. Okay. Stacy.
I'm torn. I think the Louis story could be really good, but I'm not sure we could win with it. And I'm all about winning. So I'm looking for a sweep in the last 2 years. So I really like Carrie Pryor in this, but I don't know if it fits the description. Only because it's provided to Nevada's children by employees. But I mean, she impacts those children a lot by the way she motivates and keeps our teachers, our first year teachers especially.
Yeah, I don't know how people are going to vote, but I mean, my feeling is a direct impact to students might,
Be better.
you know, might lend more weight.
So I'm gonna go with Letitia and Sheila.
Okay, Mike?
And I'll say Bridget and Carrie.
Okay, guess who we're back to?
I'm just looking at the rubric. Oh, sorry, mic on. The rubric that they've given us, unique contributions achieved in this position, innovative thinking about ways to improve student learning and achievement that have resulted in increased student achievement for the school, the district, or the state. So I think looking at the rubric, I'm going to go with Bridget. I think she has done a lot and she's had good results with, she's done a lot to improve student achievement for first-time college kids, particularly first-generation college students. A lot of success this last year and a tough time to apply. Who's number two out of the?
Letitia has 4 votes, Bridget has 3 votes, Tara, Carrie, and Sheila each have 1 vote.
Okay, I'll do Letitia too. So,
Okay, so Bridget and Letitia are moving forward. Good? Okay. Veteran School Board Member of the Year. This, just to make sure, this is 1, and we have Laurel and Bridget Peterson. And I'm gonna, maybe I'll start this off since I don't usually
Well,
have to.
can I just say, because Bridget doesn't want us to nominate
Right.
her, I would just say, why don't we just nominate Laurel?
Yeah, you stole my thunder. That's all right. And you should see the write-up Laurel did for herself. No, I'm joking. I'm joking all. Okay. All right. I think we're ready. If we have any more discussion, great. Otherwise, I think we're ready for a motion.
So after we make the motion and we have the candidates, is that when you're assigning?
Yeah, let's do that, and then we'll assign who's writing what.
I'll move that we nominate the agreed-upon slate of nominees.
And do you have that? Are you okay with that? I figured you were. Just wanted to ask. Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Walker. Second by Trustee Varner. Any further board discussion? Seeing none, any public comment? Dr. Delphin.
I don't get to say very much, but Dr. Delphin, Jose Delphin for the record, I just wanted to just shout out Ann Sear for this pandemic year. She did a great job behind the scenes, touched every school, every department, put dots everywhere, physically put stickers and social distancing. And I know she worked tirelessly working with staff that were COVID positive and settling them down. I just want to let you know she's been a rock star, in my point of view. Don't mean to mess you up.
Right. So we do have a motion on the table. And we have a second. Any additional comments? Any remote comments on this topic?
No, Mr. Casiopo.
Okay, I'm going to call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. So with that, let's talk about who's doing what write-ups. So let's start back at the beginning. I believe Stacy wants to do my write-up. It was so successful last time, I mean.
I'll give better bullet points to Laurel.
Okay. The Noon Rotary Club.
I'll work on that.
You say Mr. Stokes.
You want to
should be
jump
a
in
part
there
of
quick?
that.
Okay. Okay, Board Support Staff Person of the Year, Raymond Maderos. Okay. District Level Administrator of the Year, impacting student achievement. I'm happy to help with one or both of those. Sorry, Valerie and Tasha.
So if you work on Valerie's, I'll coordinate with Tasha.
Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, we'll come and talk to you and get some bullets, and then we'll give it to Laurel to make it sound good.
And I'd just like to say I have insights as well. Be happy to.
Thought you might.
Be happy to contribute.
Okay, thank you. Mike, was that you on, for Tasha? Okay, thank you. Okay, Innovative Educator of the Year, Ananda Campbell.
I think I have one that I've worked on before, so, yeah.
Okay. Carson City School District, Local Governance Team of the Year. Right, don't we? We just have to update it.
It's still got a race to the top.
Actually, there's 3 of you guys that haven't gotten them, so, we're more than happy to let you update it.
I don't mind having a part in trying to
Because
update
Dawn
that.
hasn't.
I think that might be a good idea to
Lupe
go through a
hasn't.
few people, just so we hit the highlights. Okay,
Are you going to Chicago?
okay.
There's no superintendent. Because last time that was the governance team, they include the superintendent, and then we had the superintendent, and then we had the school board.
Okay, how about the Media Award for Outstanding Education Reporting? Well, maybe that's a good start. Okay. See what happens when you go on vacation? Okay, and NASB Director of the Year. That's Mike Walker. I don't know, do we have a draft? But I'm kind of thinking, I don't mean to throw it to somebody else, but I'm kind of thinking you or Laurel, because you have a better understanding of what that is.
I'll ask for bullet points.
Yeah, please. For a number of reasons, we don't want Stacy writing something about Mike. Okay, a new school board member of the year, Rich Varner. I'm happy to take a crack at that. I've been working pretty close with Rich, so I'm happy to, and I'll shoot that to everybody to get some input, to include you.
Yeah.
Okay, and NASB School Administrator of the Year, Jennifer Ward DeJoseph and Bob Chambers. So I nominated Jennifer, so I'm happy to do that.
I can help you on that one.
Okay. Okay. Why don't we? No, let us do them, and then we'll run it by you for final review. And how about Bob? Okay. I know Mike already had a few on his plate, so I don't know if someone else can jump in and help Lupe. Is that too much for your plate, Mike? I know you're a busy guy. Right. Okay. Okay, no, that'd be helpful. Okay, and then we have school district employee making a difference, Letitia and Bridget.
So how about, Tasha, if you and I work together on Bridget, and then you do Letitia since you work with her more? Would that work? Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Okay, and drum roll, Veteran School Board Member of the Year, Mrs. Crossman. Do we-
So Dawn, it would just need updating. So if you'd like to take that one, you can, or I can take it.
Well, and whoever,
But actually, I shouldn't say hi. My wife, Jeannie, helped with that.
all right, Dawn's wife.
So I'll put her, she's long in bed now, so she's not listening. But I'll put her in charge of updating Laurel, and Laurel, give me some notes.
Okay. So we have 2 meetings until we have to submit these. And we've got, got a fair amount to write. So the idea would be, let's try to see if we can get these written up by the next meeting, knowing that we got a little bit of time after that, but we're gonna need them ahead of time to get those to Renee. So let's shoot for next meeting. Let's see if we can have them, and then we can polish them up as needed. And I'd like to get those to Renee before that second meeting, unless anyone sees a flaw in that.
I'm just gonna be gone for a week, period of time, so we'll have to get together.
Okay, so let's talk sooner rather than later, and, okay. All right. So we have our homework there. Okay, so we're gonna move on to item 11, approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as submitted.
Motion by trustee Walker, second by trustee Varner. Any board comment? Any public comment, in person or remote?
No, Mr. Casiopo.
Okay, board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 12 is informational items for discussion only. Any questions on the informational items? Seeing none, how about requests for future agenda topics?
Just real quick in a matter of time, since we're gonna be looking for a new superintendent positions open, I'd like to look at policy number 0303, which states out some of the policy on the duties of the superintendent, to make sure that they're up to date in what we're looking for, so that when we do open that position, it's already done. We're not gonna be redoing it.
Yeah, good idea. And I think we should be timely with that. And can we get that? I don't know what our next agenda looks like. Can we get that on the agenda? Okay. Okay, any other requests for future agenda topics? Seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.